everyone, and welcome to episode 101 of LostinTranslationmon. I'm May.
And I might be Jay.
Maybe.
Possibly. You don't know.
We never know. And this time we watched Workin' on the Train Gang.
Or Sleppin' Dankness, the Trillmon's Graveyard.
You Make Me Cry, weekly. And My Brother in Spirit.
Or The Revelled Pasta.
Pasta.
Duskmon's Secret.
Secrete.
Secret would
be better.
That was option B.
For DigiNews this week, first up we have a countdown to some new evolving figures. We know that there's going to be a War Greymon.
Aren't those always the worst figures?
These ones might be better.
Because neither form ever looks right?
No, the Japanese ones look good. The Japanese ones are usually look exactly like both ones. The American ones are always a bit, what's going on? A bit horrific.
Do you remember how, Agumon has these big arms, right? Yeah, well, now when you transform it into War Greymon, those are the wings.
No, his head is the wings.
I forgot. You're right. Yeah, his head split up is the wings.
Okay, no, that's the Japanese one. But anyway, so it's called the Spirit. It's called the Spirits series, which is confusing considering
Spirit of Evolution.
Yeah,
exists.
it just became. It was just the 15th anniversary of Digimon Frontier.
You know what that tells me?
And they announced Digimon Adventure stuff for the anniversary of Frontier.
That tells me they care so little about Frontier. They don't even want you to remember it exists. Spirit Evolution? Oh yeah, that's those toys we made.
Yeah, well, considering for the Digimon Adventure 15th anniversary, we got the 15th anniversary Digivices. Then for 02, we had the D3. And then for Tamers, we had, the re-release of the D-Arc.
And now you get some figures called the Spirit Evolvers.
Yeah.
No, they're not Spirit Evolving, but they're called that.
So that's pretty exciting. We're getting some more evolving figures.
It's not exciting, because you're going to buy them and not have anywhere to put them, and then it's just
sad. I have no space for figures now.
It's just sad.
I have
Stop buying them.
Where am I going to put that huge Greymon?
What Greymon?
The tall Greymon figure?
Oh, why did you buy it?
Because it's tall. Well, both Sam Krieger from the Moncast and myself bought it.
What? You buyed it?
I bought it.
Joe buyed it.
Because it's this big.
Yeah, I know. So what are you going to do with it?
I'm going to put him on top of my computer.
And I've warned you, if we move out, you can't take any of this stuff with you.
I'll buy another house for it. Greymon can have his own house.
Good luck.
It'll be like my double life where I have all the Digimon merchandise.
Yeah, you know what? Sometimes when people are in relationships, their significant others sneak off in the middle of the night and it's all suspicious, and I just catch May and she's playing with a Greymon figurine. I'm like, oh, betrayal.
I've got I'll get a Toy City, and it'll be stomping through the Toy City on one of those mats with the city on them.
And I'll kick down the door and be like, where is he? Oh, what is this?
And I'll be like, dude, it's not what it looks like. It's not what it looks like. I'm cheating on you.
I can explain. Yeah.
It's not what I look like. Don't worry. The other guy is in the cupboard, I guess. And I open the cupboard and it's just a huge Agumon costume.
It's a life-size Taichi, it's a hug pillow. Was a body pillow?
Yeah, a Dakimakura. Is that what it's called? I think so.
Yeah.
No, please. If I were to get a Digimon hug pillow, it would not be a 12-year-old child, actually.
I mean, you just age them up.
It'd be Yamaki. Let's be real.
It's in all of those, I wanted to call them online comics or parodies, where they take, shows and animated stuff, and then at the first page goes, oh, by the way, every character in this is aged up to 18. Just so you know.
I've never seen those.
And then,
because Dojinshi does not do that.
Then they look exactly the same. I've seen a few.
For the next bit of news, it's that Tamers is finally going to be released on DVD in Australia. Yay! Yay!
Don't expect anything from me.
Yay!
Every time we talk about Digimon merchandise, you're literally just telling me, oh, by the way, I'm not going to be able to buy dinner for a month.
No, I live with my parents, so they buy me dinner.
That's what I'm saying. The wording is, you know how we could have had fun on going out on weekends? Sorry. I have Digimon merch that I'm cramming into a cupboard and don't even look at.
Hey, look, I just paid for the Jury and Leomon figure and I'm buying you lunch tomorrow. So.
This is what I'm talking about. Yeah,
I can do both.
And then you said that's the end of it for the month. It's the 5th day of the month.
Because I'm trying to save several grand a month, okay? It's very hard.
I know. I'm just saying, every time you talk about merch, this is what I hear from you.
Yes, okay.
If you didn't buy the merch, you'd save tons of money.
I know, but also you just spent $1,000 on Kingdom Death Monsters.
That's true. That was a couple months ago.
Yes.
And then that was it. And that was all.
Yeah, still.
It's not comparable.
Speaking of Australia stuff that only a few people will care about, is that Zag Toys are releasing the Domes figures that released in Hot Topic in America.
Zag
And-
Toys for Junior.
And
Zag
some
Toys for
plushies, and they're
Junior.
releasing in Australia, and that's really exciting, and I'm excited.
Don't care.
Hopefully they'll be like at EB Games. I'd say they'll be at EB Games and Critical Hit and stuff like that.
Domes?
Are they like those little Digimon figures that were released in Hot Topic that I showed you that you didn't pay attention to, obviously?
What the hell? Why would I even pay attention to that?
I don't know.
What's wrong with you?
And a bit of news for America is that Try Chapter 2 is going to be released in America on Blu-ray, disc, and DVD, and that's in August.
In Japanese or in both?
I think in both. It's
Okay.
the same as the Chapter 1. Chapter 1 has both. It's got dual audio. It's got the Japanese version with English subtitles, and it's got the English dub, which we haven't seen yet. So when that comes out, the Chapter 1 comes out in Australia, which is in July. We will cover the dub. Because everyone else has covered, like, just spoken about the dub and covered the dub, but we haven't because we live in Australia.
Well, because they've already seen it.
Yes, because it came out in cinemas.
Ah.
And yeah, it came out more in Japan.
I'm so glad it
That was
didn't come
salty.
out in cinemas here, so I didn't have to buy a ticket for it and waste my day watching it.
I would have paid for you.
Okay, let me rephrase that. I'm so glad I didn't have to waste my day watching that.
Okay. And for LostinTranslationmon, we had our second podcast birthday, so that was on May 3rd.
That's fine.
And on May 3rd, we streamed a live stream, first ever live recording of the podcast. And this I think it was pretty successful considering it was like 4 a.m. for some people. Like it was
5 for a couple.
Yeah, it was 5 a.m. for a few people. It was like very early in the morning. And yeah, so they decided to stay up and watch us play Next Order and talk, like,
Cruel and unusual punishment.
live stream a podcast episode. And we've also released that episode onto the podcast feed as an MP3 file. And I edited it to have music, and it also has the clip show of the best parts of Digimon and our show, and that stuck to the end.
And you took out the 3 minutes of setup at the beginning. I
Yeah.
watched the first bit of it. We were like, oh, camera, no, stay there. No, oh, we can do this. Yeah,
In what?
in the YouTube video.
I didn't cut that. You can't edit that.
That's what I'm saying. So you could have cut that out of the audio.
Oh yeah, well I didn't. We weren't recording at that stage. The audio.
Well, then it's really easy to cut it out.
Yeah.
It's real easy.
So also, just a quick thing. If you notice some audio problems in the podcast episode, it's because Jay did a bit at the end where he picked up the microphone. I tried to equalize that, but in doing so, for some reason, the audio kept on jumping between the left and the right headphone.
What?
Yeah, I don't know why I did that. So I had to actually re-edit it and re-upload it, and I went to bed at 1 a.m.
I'm proud of you.
And we
going
finished-
to bed at
yeah.
the same time I normally do.
Yeah, it was like 1 a.m. Oh no, it was 2. I don't know. I was very upset with myself because I had
You're
to.
very strong.
I had to
You're very
re-edit it,
brave.
and it was very annoying. But so yeah, that's an episode that's there. And if you wanted to watch the second birthday video stream, it is on YouTube, so you can check that out. Speaking of our birthday, Stevie drew us as Roadhog and Junkrat. That's pretty cool.
That was great.
I retweeted it. And for weekly poll, I'm going to have something that is Koji with bandana or without a bandana.
Okay, it was an odd moment of the episode.
I couldn't think of anything else, and they focused on it for far too much, considering he takes it off and puts it back on for no reason.
If I was you, I would have made the weekly poll, who is the most evil character in all of Digimon? And it would be every bad guy. It'd be Devimon, Edamon, Vamdemon, Dark Masters as one group, Oikawa, Vamdemon again, and then you'd have Koji's dad as the last option.
Yeah, because Koji's dad is the evilest character.
Oh my god, he's so bad!
But we will get to that. And on to Obnoxious Synopsis. The first episode that we're watching this week is called Working on the Train Gang, or Sleep in Darkness, the Trailmon's Graveyard. What do you think will happen in this episode?
I really have very little for you. I suspect A, they're going to go to Trailmon's graveyard. B, they're going to sleep and it's going to be dark. C, they're going to work, probably alongside or on some trains.
Do you think anything will annoy you in this episode?
If it's really contrived and it's a big filler episode,
Do you think it'll be a good episode?
no.
What rating?
4.
Filler or not filler?
Filler.
I haven't had any filler for a while.
Sure, okay. I mean, they just beat Sakakimans. Actually, no. Hold on. I forgot they just got bubbled. Okay. Let's retrace this a little bit. Sleep in darkness just means they're trapped in the darkness bubble. That's fine. Trailmon's graveyard. It's a metaphorical place
What
in
darkness
which
bubble?
didn't they get darkness bubbled
No,
by Tribumon?
Velgamon flew away.
Then
What do you think happened in the last episode?
Oh no, it's all filler. I forgot. Honestly, I totally forgot. No, screw it. Okay, well, no, back to what I said before. Ignore me.
The second episode that we're watching this week is called My Brother in Spirit, or The Revealed Past, Duskmon's Secret. What do you think will happen in this episode?
I think that Koichi and Koji have their big talk.
You think it's just going to be an episode of talking?
I mean, it's mostly going to be flashbacks, actually, but that will take the place of the talking.
So you think they're going to flash back at you for 30 minutes?
Not for 30 minutes. Not even 30-minute shows.
Okay.
They're 25-minute shows.
Okay, like 22 minutes.
I think there's going to be a good number of them.
Do you think anything will annoy you in this episode?
If they still don't explain how they got separated and why... Does Koji think his grandma's dead? Like, I need to know that.
So do you think it'll be a good episode?
I think it has some of the most promise of Frontier, but guess what? It's Frontier, so no!
What rating?
6.
Filler or not filler?
Not filler.
Well, I hope you get your answers, and I hope that all is explained, and I hope you're not super mad when we finish this episode.
I'm probably gonna be!
Alright, on to the show. Episode 31 starts off with, in the dub, of course, a narration from Rika, and she calls something a spiky ball thing. I think she's talking about Sephirothmon, but I actually have no actual clue because I don't remember any spiky balls happening in the last episode. No, was it the pillars that were dropped down onto the kids? What was she talking about?
She'd have no idea.
Because she says, oh, and the kids had to escape from some spiky ball thing. I'm like... Sephirothmon wasn't in that episode, and I'm not sure what they would be talking about.
I would need to see the bit that she was talking about. I
don't think there's any context.
It.
So, there's also some weird dialogue, and I don't know, there's some weird pauses between all her syllables that she's saying, and it just...
She didn't want to go into work that day.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like she's putting all her, like, umph into the character.
You know, all of your umph.
Yeah.
So you keep it in the sub-umphful area.
So Velgmon's flying around, he's wondering who Koji is, and Koji's wondering the same thing. There's a bit more dialogue in the dub. He's saying, like, oh, I'm so dark and evil. Oh, who is this? Why does he make me feel things? Whoa. And then the other children are there. Bokumon and Neomon are proud that Koji could put up a fight against Velgmon.
Did you catch that they walk up to him?
Yeah.
And they go, what was that? And Koji goes, oh, well, that's Velgmon, right? Nobody knew what that was. And he says, well, that's Velgmon. I know the answer because I just hung out with him and I heard him say that.
Yeah.
Beakmon goes... Wow, not many people are able to put up a fight against Velgmon.
Yeah.
How does he know that?
Well, I would say it's in the book, but he
There's
did not.
no
He
way.
did know about beast spirits in the book, so I'm not sure why.
But also, this beast spirit, like it wasn't
custom.
it was locked. It was only just released.
It's also it's a custom one that Trubimon created.
And as if he knew information about all the beast spirits, he would have been able to tell us something about Sephirothmon. He was standing there for 2 full episodes.
Yeah.
Was he not going to be like, oh, by the way, guys, he absorbed your information?
Yeah. And so, but Bokumon says, oh, I'm very proud of you. And Neomon says, oh, it's something else. And then Patamon says hello, and it's really cute. And he sits on Koji's lap. And Koji finds out that that's why where he got the power to evolve. And Koji thanks him.
In a grumpy way.
In the dub...
My boy, there aren't many who could stand up to Velgamon and still walk away. I'm flabbergasted. Gesundheit!
It's adorable. I love Bokumon and Neomon. Bokumon says that now that they're together, they can continue to the Venus Rose. And then, in the background of the dub, there's some weird added dialogue instead of nothing, and it's JP saying that he's ready, and Takuya says, yeah, ready to eat. I'm like, wow, that's a bit
wrecked,
harsh.
Apparently. Get destroyed.
Get it because he's fat.
Yeah. So, Koji has this line, which is like, now maybe I'll understand the mystery that's surrounding me.
Yes.
Or something like that.
Well, that's what Ophanimon said to him when she first started speaking to him on the phone.
True, but Koji's never said, oh, what mystery is that? He's always said, oh, I'll have answers to the mystery, like he's confused. But there's never any indication that there is anything mysterious happening to him. There's stuff that's gone on in the background that he couldn't possibly have known about. But from his perspective, his life's been totally normal. So I don't know why he's acting like all of a sudden his life is different.
Maybe he suspects something that's going on. I can't remember for the life of me if that's right or not, though.
No, but it's not, he shouldn't be like, what are the answers to this mystery that I'm feeling?
Yeah.
It should be, what's the mystery? What the hell was she talking about?
That's a good point. Yeah, I just assumed that he suspects something from how his dad was acting or something.
It is actually worse in the English, I'm pretty sure. I didn't write down exactly what he said, but he's really like, I'm gonna go find the answers to this mystery. I'm like, well, what mystery is there? You don't know. And if anyone clearly knows, she just won't tell him. That's one of the laziest parts about this that I hadn't even thought about until right now. Of course she knows the answers. Because the only way you could know that there is a mystery at all is to know the answer in the first place. Yeah. Why wouldn't she tell him?
Again, she would know about Koichi, wouldn't she?
There's not a chance that she could know that there was something up. Because Koji doesn't know there's anything wrong with his life. The fact that she knows there's something wrong with his life means
she knows...
Koji doesn't know there's anything wrong with his life. So if you know there is something wrong with his life, there's no conceivable way for you to know that without knowing, oh, well, your brother's here.
That's a very good point. I never thought of that before. Oh.
So why is Ophanimon holding this back? Is it because the writers are lazy and hadn't thought of anything when she said that?
But Jay, it was in the script.
But what if it wasn't at the time? What if she said the mystery that surrounds you and they were just spitballing it into the distance and hoping, oh, we'll think of something?
They said, oh, it's future writers' problem.
And you know what? It feels like they just, I don't know, came up with something. Because I'll tell you, having written a couple things in my time, I shouldn't say that. I've written one thing, and it was very long. But
yes,
I feel, but
very long.
Having written some stuff where I know I've shoehorned things in to make stuff work. This feels like that. This feels like the writers didn't know what they were going to do for 20 episodes, and then they came up to episode 25 and they said, oh boy, I don't know what to do. Well, I guess we'll just throw this in and hope it works.
I guess we'll just cross our fingers and hope the kids don't ask too many questions.
Meaning both the kids in the show and the kids watching.
You are opening my eyes to a lot of problems that Digimon has in this podcast.
Oh my god.
And it makes me sad.
Frontier has... This is one... I think this might be... and we'll get into it more in the next episode, because obviously that's when it's all discussed. This might be one of the worst written things in all of Digimon. And I don't mean, like, Vamdemon is badly written because he made a bad decision. I mean, like, on a macro scale, this might be the stupidest thing in Digimon.
Only if you actually think about it and analyze it.
Yeah, which only takes 2 seconds.
This is really sad, because I always thought, oh yeah, Frontier's good, but people never gave it a chance because of the premise.
Let's get there. But right now, he says there's a mystery, and all of a sudden I'm questioning whether Ophanimon means, like, is legit with them. And this is always something that would happen in another show, a better show.
Yeah.
And you'd think about that in hindsight, and you'd go, oh, they're foreshadowing this person not being trustworthy.
Yeah.
Whereas it's Digimon, so you know that's not what's happening. What's happening is the writers didn't know what they were doing, or the writing is just bad. That's always what it is.
Yeah, I don't think there's been much foreshadowing in Frontier. Like, there's been foreshadowing in previous seasons, but not so much in this season. Anyway...
In fact, there's anti-foreshadowing, where they show you stuff that did happen in the real world that you should have seen when you were there, and they didn't show you because it didn't happen.
Koji wants to walk off, and Junpei calls him selfish because Koji wants to find out the mystery. Takuya says that Koji's the kind of person who just can't continue until he solves the problem in front of him. In the dub, JP's, of course because it's the dub, is more spiteful, and he starts wondering if Koji's trying to escape from the others. And then Takuya wonders when Koji will realise he can't solve all his problems on his own. So Takuya's line's mostly the same.
I've taken to calling him Takyak.
Takyak. Junpei says that in horror manga, the nosy guy is always the first to die. In the dub, there are less scenes. Like, in the original, there's, like, all these scenes of, like, a monster murderer guy stabbing Takuya and then a pool of blood being underneath his body.
Yay!
And it's kind of gory. And the dub cuts this out. So it's the stabbing and the blood on the floor. And instead of saying it's like horror manga, he says how in scary movies the boogeyman attacks once they separate. Which, like...
It's the same.
Everyone's really annoyed with Junpei, and, like, they're making stupid faces at him. But I think he's being completely reasonable. Because he's saying don't separate.
So they're so not reasonable at all other times that it's hard for me to agree, but you're probably right in this situation.
I actually think a lot of the time in Frontier, and no one really says it this much, is Junpei is rather reasonable sometimes.
But the thing is, what isn't reasonable about this is that Junpei is saying, you shouldn't go because we shouldn't separate. But they've already separated. What he should be saying is we should all go.
Yeah.
A suggestion that is never raised.
Okay, and also...
No one says we should all go.
He didn't really say this so much to Koji, he says it only to Takuya.
Koji's already gone.
Yeah. So Takuya tells the others not to move, and Izumi says, well, they should try and get some food while they wait. And
Junpei's like, ugh, he's acting like a leader. Who elected him?
yeah, and
It's not like
Junpei...
they haven't had this conversation 3 times already.
He's mentioned it before, and still they follow him, and then a few episodes later he'll bring it up again.
They
He
really
always
toned it
does.
down, the English.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's a lot more like he's sort of he goes along with it sort of in
It's
the
more,
English.
I'm not sure this is a great idea. Oh, and also, Tommy stopped taking his side all the time.
Yeah.
That's all it is. It's not, I don't think he should be the leader. It's just, what a...
Yeah. Junpei then suggests that they gather information on the Venus Rose, and Bokemon says he's against it, and all the kids end up being for the idea. And
Big Mom looks so betrayed.
he's like, but guys...
Zumi's like, you can't go, and Big Mom's like, yeah, someone's speaking reason. You
Without
can't go
me.
without me.
Yeah.
Because it's also like the second time it happened, or at least in the English they do it twice.
Yeah.
Because Tommy does it too. And just there's a pause, and Big Mom's like, come on!
Yeah. Junpei says that they all have a role in the world, and Patamon is confused what role is. In the dub, he's like, I think you're right, which is very different. And so Junpei explains that when he was the last one not to have a spirit, he felt like a burden, and now with Takuya and Koji having a new evolution, he's happy, but he's also wondering why it's not him. And then he says that he just realised that there are things that only they can do, so there must be things that only he can do as well. And I rather like this moment.
Yeah, you'd think he'd feel a bit differently now that he wasn't the last one to get a beast spirit, though. Like, you'd think his view would have changed a little bit.
Wasn't he the last one to get a beast spirit?
Didn't Fairymon get hers afterwards? Because she didn't even have a spirit at the
Oh
time?
yeah, that's right, yeah. Yeah, Tommy got his beast spirit last. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then they go off. And they leave Bigmon and Tallmon and Patamon there in the wasteland.
And
They just said
Yeah.
that splitting up gets you killed. Not only do they wander off so that I call them Ty and Matt, Takuya and Koji can't find them when they get back. Now they're just going to be gone, and they're going to leave these guys here to die as well.
Yeah, and Patamon is still confused as to what a role is. He's just in there saying, what's a role?
It's cute.
In the dub, Nemon suggests that maybe they smell, and Patamon says, but I'm new. I actually had to rewatch this part because I had no idea what he actually said. And it took me a while to get, okay, because he's new, so he wouldn't smell because he hasn't been around very long, I
Here's
think.
a hint. Newborn babies smell like crap.
Yeah, I would have thought that they would have smelled, but I don't know.
Also, Digimon poop all the time.
They poop so much. The children see a railroad and they follow it. Then they find a creepy Trailmon graveyard and they see a scary Trailmon, and Junpei taps on it and it speaks. And in the dub, he speaks a lot more, and he's German for some reason.
You can instantly tell this is the fillerest of all fillers.
Oh yeah, it's the first filler we've had for a while. The last filler we had was the Bergamon episode, I think.
But this is like hardcore filler.
Oh yeah, this is the most filler.
Like,
it's filler, but you do get an important piece of information. But that piece of
Do
information
you?
that Ophanimon's imprisoned.
We knew that. They already told us that.
Did we?
They're acting like it's new, but I swear they said it.
Oh.
Because why else would she only be communicating with them over the phone?
Okay,
Why else? Didn't Seraphimon say that? Because
No.
he was imprisoned.
I'm not here.
I swear we already knew this.
I think I trusted the show too much.
Isn't that why they were going to the Venus Rose in the first place?
Yeah, I don't know. I actually don't. Tomoki wants to run away and Azumi's pulling him by the pants, and she says how back during a test of courage she got the nickname Reaction Queen. And Junpei says
What
that
test
no
of
one's
courage?
good with stuff like ghosts and spirits. You have a test of courage in school.
What?
Like, I don't know, they give you spiders and stuff, I don't know.
Is that a thing?
Apparently.
What?
In the dub, Zoe is sort of brave, and she says that in times like these they have to stick together. And JP says that would make them be easier to be wiped up in one strike. So I
That's
don't
a
know
hypocrite.
why they suddenly made Zoe more, like, a little bit brave. I'm like, no, we have to stick together.
Are you complaining?
No, I just, like, I don't know.
I've never heard you complain about her getting something nice.
I like them all being scared. It's cute.
Yeah, it's fine.
The Trailmon says they're noisy, and he was just trying to sleep. And he says that he's handsome, and the kids say that he's not handsome, he's run down. In the dub, he says that he's burly. Trailmon explains that this is where Trailmon go to die, with the last bit of power that they have, and that they know their time has come. In the dub, he says when they've reached the end of the line, because they're trains. Junpei says it's like an elephant graveyard. In the dub, JP asks why they can't just get repaired. And I think this is a stupid change, because I kind of like him being somewhat intelligent-ish in the original, saying, oh yeah, it's like an elephant graveyard, is, saying, oh, this is like something we have back at home. It's smart.
More important, why can't they just get repaired?
Well,
We know they don't need to.
Spoilers, he just blows up and becomes a new one. Slightly smaller, but he becomes a new one. Junpei asks for something, and Azumi says not to be rude. Junpei explains that there's not anyone else to ask, and Trailmon says that he's hearing everything.
This is funny.
Yeah, it's funny.
I thought that was a good bit.
Because they are talking right in front of him, so of course they can hear.
But they had their hands over their mouths, so it's like they're kind of whispering, except they weren't.
Trailmon says that he will tell the kids what they want to know before they leave for the other world, and Tomoki points out that he's the one leaving for the other world, and Zumi tells him not to be rude. In the dub, Trailmon calls them rude, and Tommy says that he's being rude in response to their rudeness, so isn't that just rude?
Yes.
Junpei asks for information on the Venus Rose, Trailmon freaks out, Trailmon asks them to
He
help
almost
her.
dies.
Yeah.
Also, how did he know they wanted information?
Because Junpei says.
Okay.
Yes.
I forgot.
So Junpei evolves and helps flip him up. Trailmon's amazed that he can evolve, and then Trailmon says, okay, well, before I die, I'd also like to be cleaned. So
Okay.
they
So we
dump
get
a
a
bottle of water. Yeah, we
montage.
get a montage. He gets a big bowl of water, and it's quite clever the way that they get the bowl made out of the ice.
Sort of.
And they cut through it, and then they fill it up with water, and they push it over. This is clever. This is using the spirits and their abilities in different ways.
You know what would have been even more clever?
Not having filler?
No, just using the wind, tornado to suck water out of it and dump it on top of him.
Yeah, but they needed to also use her powers for something else, and they couldn't just use her for everything, clearly.
It's just one thing.
And he keeps on bossing them around and saying, oh no, that's too cold. And then he's upset about Fairymon having cold wind and not warm wind. And she says, well, this is all I can do. In the dub, Blitzmon says that he won't be upset if Kazemon accidentally hurts the Trailmon, and Kazemon says that he shouldn't tempt her because they hate him. Now he's all clean, and Junpei says, okay, you're all clean now, can we have your information? And Trailmon says, one more thing, and then the children go, nah, we're done, and they
I
walk
really
off.
appreciate that they did one thing, because they could have easily done the whole episode was the Tremon leading them along and making them do stuff.
Yeah.
And they just said, the first instance it became obvious that he was, messing with them, it was nah, we're done here, see you, man. We're good, we don't actually care that much.
Yeah.
That was reasonably good.
I mean, this episode does have some nice points, at least.
Still bad, though.
Yeah, but it has some nice points.
Important to note, still bad.
So, Trailmon admits that he was tricking them because he's never received such kindness, and then he thanks them and starts crying, and then the others start crying too.
I thought he was messing with them again. I thought we would be like, oh, it's a double con.
Well, he does get what he wants. He still gets a massage from Blitzmon.
He gets everything.
And then they massage him, wash him, feed him chocolate, and Trailmon says that he actually went to the Venus Rose, he wasn't making that up. And then he can give them information, but he ends up almost basically dying.
He nukes them, and how they're not dead is a total is a mystery.
He explodes. I really like how they're calling him Oji-san in the original, and he's using old man speak. You know how Jedi would use old man speak? It's different. Yeah.
These kids these days don't even know how to rub baba onions.
Well, that's the English version. That's like the English old man voice.
But there isn't. But it's not an old man voice in the English version.
No, it's German. So he explodes.
No, I went to an Indian there.
Yeah. In the dub, Tommy calls out about why they always lose friends straight after they meet them. I'm like, have you lost any other friends? Has anyone died besides Seraphimon, who was reborn? Who has died?
It has to be Seraphimon, doesn't it?
The Sorcerermon.
That was the same day.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say that that's.
It's not a pattern.
Yeah, it's not like, every couple of episodes they meet someone and they die. It's not as often as it has been in previous seasons. So he ends up being born, he's happy, and he feels really lucky, and he sounds different, and he's not talking in old man speech anymore.
I have a question for you.
Yep.
The train was a particular size, right? It was quite large.
Yeah, it shrinks.
Okay. Second train is much smaller.
Yeah.
You would say it has lost width, clearly?
Yes.
How does it go on the train tracks now?
It's too small for the train tracks.
So it's just going to stay there forever?
Well, that's clearly not the case, because in the next episode we see him chugging along, being a train.
Yes. Actually, no, the train tracks in this universe are a monorail, which means the wheels of the train don't actually do anything. Have you ever thought about that?
I don't think about trains a lot of the time.
No, have you thought about in the digital world, all the train tracks are one rail, but all the trains have wheels. Yeah. But those wheels aren't on anything.
No.
Frontier's really dumb.
Does that mean the trains don't necessarily have to go on the rails? They might just have independent wheels that are meant for off-rail activities.
What, in real life?
No, in Frontier.
In Frontier, it is very clear they do not have to be on the rails, because if they did have to be, how did Anglermon here get to the graveyard in the first place, and then how did he leave? He wasn't on a rail when he left.
I have no idea. Well, and neither is the one that he's in the sort of like flashbacky when he's explaining what the Trailmon graveyard is.
Yeah, exactly. He slides in, and you're like, how did he get there?
Also, Sleep in Darkness is a really cool name. Like, that's pretty metal.
What?
So, yeah, he is basically all happy now, and the children are mad, and they Beast Spirit evolve for, like, 2 seconds.
They're like, how dare you trick us?
Yeah, and Corey Kakumon says it's funny, but he's still mad, and I love this, because he's all clapping, he's like, it's really funny, but I'm still really mad. In the dub, he tells the Trailmon that he has to learn not to lie to his friends, and then the next scene, they're all riding him as humans now, which I have no idea, they evolved, and then there was like a screen change and all of a sudden they're happy with him and humans, and I feel like this is such a weird change of pace because they didn't have any more time because they spent it all on evolving.
Did you get the sense at the end? Because I swear they said we're going to the castle where they're holding her fanny.
No, they're going to go back to the others.
Is that what they said?
Yes.
Oh, I really got the sense because like the Venus Roses in the distance. I'm like, oh, they're just going to the Venus Roses.
No, they're not. They're going to see Takuya and Koji and Bokumon and Nemon and Patamon to tell them that Ophanimon's imprisoned.
Oh, okay.
Which is what we learned in this episode.
I will accept that.
What do you think of this episode as someone who's new to Digimon?
Sucked. Huge waste of time. And you know it's a huge waste of time because, I mean, first of all, I'm pretty sure we already knew that Ophanion was trapped. And if not, it didn't matter because they was all going to this place anyway.
Yeah.
And Ophanion could communicate with them directly, so Ophanion should have told them, if not.
Yes.
The fact that it wasn't a surprise to me, though, tells me that we already knew.
Yeah, see, I just assumed that we didn't know and that the show was alright, but I guess I was wrong there. What rating do you give it?
It's 3.
I gave it a 5.
Doesn't deserve it.
Yeah, probably not.
But a 5 from you, it may as well be a 2.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't give 5s. Like, that's pretty low for me. I'm like, I mean, we got...
You don't give below 6s.
We got potentially important information about Ophanion.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
But potentially important information that did not need a whole episode and should have been communicated 20 episodes ago.
Yes. And, I mean, there were both funny parts. And I kind of like the Trailmon. I think that was kind of funny. And there were funny bits, but I just feel like the Bergamon episode, and fine, I'll agree that the Bergamon episode was filler. But
Finally.
The Bergamon episode was good.
There was a story there. Stuff happened in it.
I cared about the Bergamon. And yes, we had the 3 main characters, the 3 side main characters as the main characters of the episode. And they went off to do their thing. And I liked that. And it was sort of like the same sort of thing, is that it's about the 3 main characters, and they go off and do something.
Hey,
the 3 side main characters.
Let me tell you something about storytelling.
Yep.
The basic thrust of any story is the aim, the conflict, and the resolution. Your aim is what do your characters want to do, conflict is what's in the way, and the resolution is how does it go in the end. What's the aim in the Bergamon episode? Okay, someone's been kidnapped, we have to rescue him. What's the conflict? It's by one of the big bad guys. Also, some of our guys have been kidnapped. What are we going to do? Resolution, they win the whole fight and the whole tense situation is resolved.
Yeah.
What's the aim, conflict, and resolution in this one? We want some information from a train. He would like a massage, and we would prefer not to give one.
I mean...
At the end, we give him one, and now we're friends.
Yes. But, I mean, you do get some interesting world building, that you know about the trains.
World building?
Yeah,
No,
you learn about the trains, and the trains die, and they go to the graveyard.
It's not world building if we're never, ever, ever going to talk about it again. And we're not.
Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty missable episode in terms of, like, you do get that bit of information, but if you think that we already knew that information, or you could already guess that information...
Like, if you found out tomorrow that there was a pamphlet that Tolkien wrote about Lord of the Rings that discussed that there was a race in Lord of the Rings called the Jirani, and they're big cube crystal creatures that floated around, near the border of Mordor and everything. Yeah. If you found all that stuff out, you could argue that that's world building until you think, well, it was never relevant in any way to the story,
right.
So of course it's worthless.
So you don't think this part will be relevant to any other episodes in Digimon?
I don't think that it's ever going to be relevant. And I know that next episode they say, oh, let's go find the train again. And you could argue, oh, well, they're calling back to the thing they did, the progression they made where they made a friend that's a train. They catch trains all the time. It's the one thing in this show that you don't question is, they got a train. Because they've established you can get them anywhere, anytime, except sometimes you need a ticket.
Also, we've seen Angular Trailmon before, haven't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
At least once, because in the race we saw all of them.
And I think the race might have been the last filler episode we saw. So there aren't that many filler episodes in Frontier.
No, but it's because everything that isn't a filler episode is just a long fight scene, and there have been so many bad guys that you can draw out 3 fight scene episodes for each one.
Like, as I said when we first started, and I didn't give you the exact answer, I just said, well, there's either a lot of filler or there's little filler.
So there's not much.
Yeah,
but
and what I remember is that there's not much filler.
Like, honestly, and I'm not saying that you should put more filler in your show, but I am saying you might want to compress your story down a little bit, and if that means you have to have more filler, then that's kind of okay.
Yeah.
Because I would rather some good episodes with some bad episodes rather than everything is really bad.
And how did this episode compare to what you predicted in Obnoxious Synopsis?
I thought they would have to work at the
I do.
No, not really. And I said it made no sense because they're meant to blow up into data when they die. And they kind of address that in that he doesn't actually die, he just refreshes. But even so, why didn't he become an egg? I think this implies that the Trailmon don't have eggs.
Maybe.
They just become Trailmon again. Which also means they're functionally immortal, because if you were to try and kill them, they would just become Trailmon again.
Yeah, immediately.
So if you were to kill this Trailmon right now, would he just explode and become a Trailmon again?
I'd say so, but in the Trailmon graveyard, we also did see, like, Trailmon corpses.
Did we see full ones? I always thought that we were seeing, like, the edges of them, which is what was remaining of this guy, like the shell. They're shedding their skin.
Oh, no, that's a good point. If they were just, like, the edges... Because, I mean, like, I just assumed they were corpses. I didn't, like, look into them enough. But, no, that's fair. Like, maybe this is what all happens to all of them, but they just don't know.
They're just cicada shells.
Yeah, the basic cicadas.
And it'll all be resolved in the end and never spoken of again. And that's kind of true. They do reference that they met a guy in this episode, but, like, it's passing. Yeah. It did suck, though. And guess what? It was even worse than I thought it would be.
And that's saying something. Yeah, no, it's definitely filler. Like, I'm never going to argue if this episode was filler or not. What was the major difference between the Japanese and the English version?
He was German?
Yeah, I think the Trailmon... I really do like how Japanese has, like, different dialects and different ways to speak and different slang depending on your age group.
But that's not even the issue. What's important here is that the story is totally different when it's, I'm a train and I'm old and I'm run down and boy, am I going to die soon. Because you know what old man said, I'm not doing so well, sonny.
Yeah.
Like, you get that and you're like, oh, I understand it. The other one's like, I'm very uncomfortable being the German train.
Yeah.
Please, give me the massage, kiddos. Like, what is this? He just sounds happy and excited to be there.
Yes.
Oh, I will definitely be dying soon, believe me.
Yeah, and it was almost like he was going to turn around and say, oh, I was never actually dying at all, I just wanted some attention.
No, he's got his busted up teeth and everything. You could tell, but...
Yeah.
Like, you have to take visual cues rather than, like, the character telling you something. Anyway, it sucked.
Yuri on Digimon. What was I up to? Where are my notes? Episode 32 starts off with Koji being in some wind and he's having memories about Velgmon, and then he remembers how Duskmon was confused when he first saw him, and Koji wonders if Duskmon is him. In the dub, he wonders if he's using him or if he is him, and this is the scene that...
But is himself?
Yeah, is himself.
Okay.
Yeah, he's like, well, is he using me or is he me? And this is the part where, for some reason, he takes off his bandana.
I'm so glad you noticed this.
And it's for, like, it makes no sense. I mean, maybe he's... Look...
I have one theory.
Okay, so I'll say mine first. My theory is that it's, like, it's sort of come off slightly in the wind, and he's, like, has to reorganize it. Like, he has to redo his hair or something, but the animation doesn't support this theory at all.
So, because it's funny, because he takes it off to have his flashback and then immediately puts it back on.
Yeah, his flashback is related to him wearing a bandana, apparently.
So, my only theory I could possibly come up with is that what they were trying to do, it was kind of like a metaphor, and they're like, look, doesn't he look so much like Koichi here because he doesn't have the thing on?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, of course. You're putting them together. Oh, is he me? Oh, here's my face. No bandana. There's this guy's face.
That's stupid.
That's the best I've got.
That's probably actually true as well. That might be why they're doing it. It's so...
We cut to Junpei and everyone else getting back to where they were,
Yeah.
which looks like a different place, first of all.
Yes.
Second, his response is, they're not back yet, and also Bigmon and Tallmon and Patamon are gone.
Yes.
Why would they expect Takuya... I mean, like... No. They kind of act like Takuya and Koji have wandered off again.
Yeah, and they're also almost offended, like, how dare they? What kind of people would walk off when we've told them to wait
totally
somewhere?
Hypocritical.
And in the dub,
Why would they just walk off?
JP says, oh, beans. I don't know why characters are now saying, oh, beans, because Bokumon said in the last episode, and now JP's saying it too? And it's not even like... It's not even a reference to him saying, oh, beans. It's just him saying, oh, beans. It's like... when anyone keeps on saying, bring on the beef, buddy, or bring on the beef, baby, or anything like Takuya said it. It's not doing any direct relationship to it. It's just like a nod to say, hey, remember when we made a character say that? Yeah, we're making another character say it. Isn't that funny?
At least Beaky Tolls had like a reason to wander off. It's because Patamon had like just gone off by himself, and they're trying to get him. And
the kids start trying to contact Koji and Takuya with the detectors, and I think you said that you'd be annoyed if they never tried to do that again.
So first of all, they did try it, but what happens this time? So I think in the Japanese they're like, oh, if Animon's power isn't making it work or something. Weird, because it obviously worked before, and her state hasn't changed.
Yes.
But more importantly, in English they go, oh, it's out of range.
Which makes no sense, because last time they were inside a big orb thing, and that would cut it off. It's like
the big force field around it.
Range is like, it makes no sense for a lot of the things the detector does. Like, same with the spirits.
This mobile phone doesn't work when someone's outside of shouting range.
Yeah, like, remember when they said, we couldn't see Junpei's spirit because it was behind all that metal, and then another episode had it reacting to something just as far away.
And also another episode, it didn't react to stuff that was behind some stone.
Yeah, so it's like, I don't know, the range of the detector very much relates to how the writers are feeling today.
Yeah. Which is the worst thing ever, because it's like, the fact that that's the case means that they've given these kids a tool, and then they've decided actively to be like, screw it.
Yeah.
Why do it then? Right? And they can't be surprising themselves. They're like, well, this is a story we have. I can't believe we accidentally gave them this tool. Just write around it. But they can't do that. They write their own story and they're like, well, if it's inconsistent, who cares? Kids won't notice.
Yeah.
We have a deadline and beer to drink. Also, Ganpachi!
Yeah, and then there's Gunpachi, which is Rubber Band Snap, which is the best. I love everything that Bokumon and Nemon do. I wish we had more Bokumon and Nemon-centric episodes. Because they're the best. We see where Duskmon is, and he's remembering his brother, and Chubimon shows up and says that he finally found out, and that Duskmon says that he can't fight his brother, and Chubimon's like, yeah, but your mother though, and we find out that Koichi's father left his mother for another woman. In the dub, Koichi's mum talks in this flashback. Like, she's like, oh yes, well, this is what's for dinner. In the original, she is silent.
Because she's meant to be sad.
Yeah, she's like depressed and is, dissociating, as opposed to in the English version, she's replying.
Okay, so basically Chubimon's contention is you should hate Koji because he and your dad ruined your mom's life.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, you blame the brother as well.
Now, let's begin. What he's trying to say is the parents divorced.
Oh no, we're not up to that part yet.
No, I'm working it out because we know this.
Oh, okay, yep.
So the parents divorced. And Koji got left with the mother. And Koichi somehow never got mentioned in Koji's entire life. Now, first of all, is the dad Satan?
The dad is a terrible character, yes. As in, not like a terrible as in, like, badly written. I mean, he probably is that too.
He's a terrible person.
But he's a terrible person. Like, he's awful. Like, what kind of person does that?
So he left the mom for another woman. Fine. Okay, their marriage broke down.
Yeah, that happens.
Whatever. Then he took one of the kids, and because this is not how custody works ever, right? But whatever. He took only one of the kids, decided he basically never wanted to see the other kid again. Yes. He wanted to make sure his kid never saw that other kid again, or the mother. Also, he told his kid the mother was dead.
That's the worst part.
And here's the worst part.
Oh?
Koichi and Koji are twins.
Yes.
They're the same age.
Yes.
How does Koji not know he had a brother?
Because he was probably very young.
For 5 years, he lived with this brother.
Were they 5 when
Sorry,
they
no.
moved out? I thought they were like 2.
His dad only got married has only been married for 3 years.
I took that as that's another woman that he left her for.
Well,
or
yeah.
They were together for a lot longer than they were married. They may have only recently gotten married.
Where was that information?
I just didn't... No,
You just didn't think they could be that stupid?
No, I just always assumed that it was when they were babies, because that's why they don't remember each other. Actually, for a fact, I think Koichi actually says, when we were babies, we were separated.
Well, like...
So, of course they wouldn't remember. They were children.
Okay.
Babies' children.
I was really trying to work out how could these twins... And they never I don't really think they clarify it. You said that they did as babies, but like they did when they young, sure, but... If they're twins, how did they not know about each other in the first place? But more importantly, like, why wouldn't the mom try to contact her child if she's still alive? Why would she keep that from Koichi? Was she ashamed of it? Because if the dad's evil, that's one thing. He wouldn't tell Koji and it'd be weird. But the mom didn't tell Koichi. He knew he had a brother. No, he didn't know.
Yeah, the grandma told the mum, him that when she was dying that he had a brother. The mum might not have told him because she was so emotional about her husband leaving her and taking one of her sons.
But hold on, why is Cherubimon saying, "Oh, they made your mother sad," when Koichi would have never connected those dots until he was just told the day he went to the digital world?
Yeah, Cherubimon is just making Koji be the villain so Koichi can fight him, but Koji actually obviously has done nothing wrong because he wasn't aware.
How could any vaguely rational, not even vaguely rational, how can anyone with a quarter of a brain who can say the words "we were separated as babies," how could that person suggest that the other baby who was separated is in any way evil or has in any way wronged them? They have also been wronged in just the same way.
I'm going to blow your mind here, Jay. Cherubimon is a bad guy, and bad guys can convince the good guys who have lost their way to do bad things.
No.
This is not a new thing to media.
I'm not saying why is he trying to say this. I'm saying that Koichi is so unbelievably stupid to even consider that as a possibility.
Oh no, it is very plot convenient as well, yes.
That I know, and I said this in my writing advice today, actually. Suspension of disbelief is really, really important with TV shows.
Yes.
But for whatever reason, suspension of disbelief is so much easier to shatter with the way people act than the weird stuff going on in the world. I don't question that these kids can turn into Digimon and those Digimon can evolve again with their beast spirits and there's a whole thing going on with that. I don't question that.
Yes.
What I do question is how Koichi could hear Koji wronged you and hurt your mom, and for him to think that's in any way reasonable justification for him to go fight.
I think he may be easy to sway in, to do stupid things when he is using the spirit of darkness. I just think he's just more suggestible to those kind of suggestions.
But wasn't the basis of him being the spirit of darkness that he had amnesia?
I don't think it was ever actually said that he had amnesia. I think he just felt lost and alone, and he was given these spirits, and the spirits kind of took control of him in a way that...
It didn't happen to anyone else.
Because these are the custom spirits of darkness that Cherubimon had created for him.
So is he the 11th spirit?
He's 10th.
But there were 10 spirits. That wouldn't be custom. It's from
No, but Cherubimon says that he created these spirits.
All of them?
Yeah, no, he created the darkness one, specifically for Koji.
No, but he's full of lies. You don't know that.
Well, he's telling the truth
He lies all
there.
the time.
Yeah, he's telling the truth there.
So is there a 10th one we don't know about yet?
No. Well, there's 10, and we know that the 10th one is darkness.
So he didn't custom make it. It's old.
You'll find out soon. It's fine.
Oh, it's plot stuff.
But we do know that Cherubimon has said that he created these spirits. So I think that because he created them, he's able to put some sort of mind control that basically makes Koichi think that anything's a good idea. And you can't just go, pfft.
I can, because the show never tells you. It never suggests that in any way. It does not. It implies that he somehow convinced him by saying, look,
Jay, you can't do this. You can't
I can't look at the conversation they had.
You can't just say, that they don't have to explain everything to us, and then when they don't explain something to you and it's quite clever and it sort of implies things, you kind of say, well, they didn't say that specifically. You can't have it both ways. You can either say, okay, do they explain too much and they not let the viewer imply anything from what they're telling you and they basically dumb everything down? Or can you say, oh, well, you know, they're implying something. They're not outright saying it, but it's nice when they imply something and don't, you know, force it down your throat when they hint at something, because it's interesting that way.
I don't even have a whole conversation about it. What I'm saying is, there is a huge difference. You don't have to have him go, I'm mind controlling you. Audience, do you know what's happening? Just have a little Eugene and Atmon eye thing. Just a little touch. That's all you need. But when you have conversation, you remember when Koji hurt your mom somehow, right? Coupled with flashback to that happening, to Koichi going, yeah, that sounds about right.
Yes, and that even shows it even more why it's just him being susceptible to those kind of lies when he is in this state.
No, I just think it shows that he's stupid.
No, it shows that he's a fragile person who is easily suggested these sort of things by someone who is abusing him.
Okay, it's just not convincing.
Okay, so you've obviously never been in a fragile state when someone says something to you and you've believed them just because you're in a fragile state. That has never happened to me. Well, that's why you can't understand, because this is something that happens when someone is in a fragile state of mind and has gone through trauma, and someone who you think is being nice to you says this is how it is. You believe them.
Do you know, the only problem with that is I don't give the Frontier writers that much credit. I appreciate that you read into it in such a manner that makes it a credible and interesting story, and I simply do not think the Frontier writers have the ability or the skill to write that.
See, I think they do. They are able to pull something good out every so often. We liked the Bergamon episode. We liked the Tomoki evolves to the Beast Spirit episode. That was a good episode. We liked the movie. They do have the potential, and I think that...
Like is a strong word for the movie.
I know, but you said it was the best part of Frontier so far.
Yeah, the best part of a poop can be still really awful.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is we have to give them credit for something, and I think that this was fine, and it made sense that he, in a fragile state of mind, would believe Cherubimon saying, hey, by the way, this is what you should do. And I think that's fair for two reasons. One being he has created these spirits for Koichi, and the second being Koichi is fragile. He's fallen down some stairs. That probably hasn't affected his brain super well. He has gone through some serious trauma. Imagine just finding out, oh, by the way, you have a brother, but your biological father has been telling your brother that you don't exist, and that your mum, who you live with, who is heartbroken and who doesn't speak to you, is dead.
Okay.
He's gone through some stuff.
I'm going to ask you, and I will either get a no or a no comment from you here, I assume.
Yeah.
Are they ever going to go into the fact that the dad's really evil?
I can't remember.
Okay. And I guess the reason I say I don't think they have the skill for this is because I can't think of a more cliched, stupid soap opera plot, but, oh, my long-lost twin brother. Did you know you always had a twin?
Yes. No,
it sounds like a work experience kid from year 10 came over and suggested a plot. They said, on a drunk evening, fine, we'll go with that. And then they said, how could you get a long-lost twin brother? How could that even happen? Well, here are all the stupidest possible circumstances to stick together until it happens.
Fine. I think it shows that the dad is just an evil person. It explains why the dad was saying, why do you have your mum's photo? Like, that reaction, both of us were saying, that is a weird reaction to have.
No.
And we were mentioning earlier about foreshadowing. That was foreshadowing that something's not right. Why would he not want a photo of his wife who died? We don't know how she died, we just know she died. And why would he say to his son, whose mother is dead, oh, why do you have that photo lying around?
I don't think you're reciting it in the way it was presented. I think that you're reading into that with hindsight now. But I don't think that was what that scene was like.
No, but that's what happened. I rewatched that scene. I rewatched that scene after
You'll
this
have to show
episode.
it to me again.
And he said, you're still looking at that photo? Or you still have that photo with you?
Again, I'd have to see it again.
No, it is.
You've changed what he said 3 times, so I don't know what to believe.
No, that's basically what he says, though.
But I have to see it.
Yes. But you can rewatch it then in your own time.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is that is pretty good foreshadowing, because we sort of just said, that's a weird thing to say. But we never really went into the possibility of why is he doing this? And, why is he weird about, his wife's photo being around? He should also want to know, have photos of his wife who died.
I always feel, I have reasonable justifications for why he acted that way in the context of none of this weird stuff happening. If it was standalone, that still made sense to me.
But now it makes even more sense because it's actually because, oh, that's right, he's horrible. He is a horrible person.
It takes on a new meaning. I wouldn't say it makes more sense so much as you can read into it interesting stuff if you choose to. I can't bring myself to give the writers this much credit. Can't do it.
See, you have to try to at least give them some credit.
No, we're 32 episodes in. I'm not going to.
Because obviously they are writers. They obviously have a job for a reason. So we have to say that not everything that they write is bad.
The cheapest ones around. Are the ones willing to work for beer.
I'm just saying, I feel like this is a fine scene. We'll move on.
Okay.
So, Drumon says that these are the ones who made his mother miserable, and Dustmon gets dark and his light evolves again. Then back to the kids, we see that Patamon is in a tree and he's licking himself, and it's adorable because he's like this big bean hamster cat. And then he finds Takuya, and Patamon says that he can find Koji too. In the dub, he doesn't really say what he's found. He just says, "Come see, I'll show you. You come see, I'll show you." And it's kind of adorable.
This way where I clap my hands or something. It's
a poem.
Translation note says it's a children's game.
Yeah, oh yeah, in the original, yeah. But in the dub, he's rhyming, and he's just saying, "Come see, I'll show you. Come see." It's kind of it's still very adorable.
If you say the same thing again.
Yeah. Bokumon says that his son is so smart because it's his son, and Nemon says that he's Serafimon.
He's not. It's not your child. I'm trying to tell you.
In the dub, he begins to say that Serafimon by any other name, and then he runs off because he's been abandoned.
Gampachi!
We see the kids are trying to contact Takuya still because the plot says they're not able to use their detectors as phones now. And Junpei says it's making him uneasy. In the dub, he says that he doesn't feel right, and then he says he doesn't know why. But then he says, "Oh wait, no, I do know why." And I know that we shouldn't just sit around. And it's just like this really awkward line because he goes from, it may have sounded like they were just messing up the line, but no, that's what he says. He goes, "I don't know why I feel uneasy." "Oh wait, yes I do." It's really awkward, and they're trying to obviously match the expression in the mouth flaps, but they're not doing a great job, and it's quite awkward.
And then they go, "Oh, you know what? We should go back and find that train again, and then we can go help." So here's the thing. First of all, why did they even bother cutting back to these kids this whole time?
Because they're saying, "Hey, do you remember how we also have these characters?"
But we already know they had a whole episode last time. So if they just showed up on the train at the end, that would have been one. That's fine. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So the only reason you would have cut back here is A, to fill time, and B, just to show you the last episode meant nothing. Because if last episode didn't happen, in this episode, what they would have done is Big One Tomo would have wandered off, and these kids would have said, "Okay, we'll wait here. Okay, we need to go find a train."
Yes.
That's the only difference between if last episode didn't happen.
And that's how you can write away that episode and make this one episode, the whole season, one episode shorter.
Completely.
You can just remove that episode.
It's a waste of time.
We could have just skipped episode 31.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're probably like, "Oh, okay, they're going to find a train. All right, then."
Easy.
So Valgmon finds Koji and attacks him. Koji double spirit evolves. And in the dub, there's this really awkward line of, "Please wait, I have something to ask you." And I don't know why, but it is so awkward.
Because they don't have enough time.
And they did this a lot in the early seasons of Digimon, where they would try to, and especially, in Adventure especially, is that they would fit so many words into a very short amount of time span. They're just giving you this very, very quick info dump in a very short time frame of the mouth flaps. So you just end up having all these really fast-speaking words all in this one tiny sentence, and it was really awkward. And so welcome back doing that, I guess. Cherubimon's voice is telling Koichi to hate his brother and let the hate grow. Velgmon's slide evolves upwards, which is the wrong way. Because I was always saying, Duskmon's slide evolves for Velgmon and it goes upwards. And then he goes upwards from Velgmon to Duskmon. I'm just like, that removes why I thought that was clever.
No, it's just a different way because he's special. He goes to Hot Topic to shop for his clothes.
No, but the really annoying thing is...
he gets his Jimmy Jams.
It's always the opposite. When they evolve, they go to the other direction.
Nope.
I feel like it's just an animation error where he should be going down, but he's actually going up.
But if it's the evolution thing, that means it's the stock footage. Because that's the But
they did it with Borgmon and Blitzmon once. They made him go the wrong way, but for every other scene, they've made him go the correct way.
Weird.
Yeah, no, it is weird. And it was in the Bergamon episode. So Duskmon's fighting Beowulfmon. Duskmon says that he is Koichi, his twin brother Kimura Koichi.
Doesn't Koji seem like when he says Koichi the first time, he goes, Koichi, like he recognizes the name?
Well, because it's very similar to his name.
That's not how that works. If your name's like Jason and you're fighting someone and they go, my name's Jeremy, you wouldn't be like, Jeremy.
No, but Koichi and Koji are just, and I've mentioned this in the last episode, I think it was, is Ko-1 and Ko-2. And we have a letter or a message this week, and it says that Ko is written as light. So it's light. Here are my twin sons. This is Light 1 and this is Light 2.
But also,
we don't mention
they're
Light
never
3.
going to meet each other when we don't mention Light 1.
We don't mention Kosan.
No, we don't.
Kosan?
We don't
No.
even mention Light 1.
Comey.
It's already there. Yeah, we
Yeah.
don't mention James Comey. We don't. Not with his letters to the FBI, from the FBI or anything.
I don't get that reference.
Oh, it's American political reference.
Yeah,
It's very timely, I promise.
Anyway, I don't know American politics because I live in Australia. So then, yeah, there's a big, like, reveal, and then we cut back to the other kids, and Tomoki's wondering where Trellmon is, and then they hear him and run up to him. Then we go back to Duskmon, because who cares about the other characters? Duskmon explains that when their parents got divorced, each took one of the children, and Koji was told that his mother had died, and she's actually alive. And this is where we find out that the true big bad in Digimon Frontier is Koji's father, because what kind of person?
But Koichi was told that was Koichi told that his dad was dead?
No.
So he knew he had a dad out there somewhere, but he didn't know he had a brother.
Yes, I feel like his grandma probably gave him that information, though, because I don't really have the impression that the mother was able to.
But in the flashback that Cherubimon, like during the Cherubimon conversation, and they said they made your mother miserable, doesn't he look outside and see the dad with Koji?
Yes.
So he knew who he was.
Yes.
So why was he surprised when he heard it from the grandma?
Okay, so I think the grandma's death actually happened before he saw that.
But I thought that was on the day he went to the digital world.
No, because he wanted to know what he looked like first. So I feel like that was before, and then he saw him with his family, and then he went to the digital world. Like, there's no, like, timestamps to these flashbacks, but I feel like there should be.
Just call him on the phone. Why did you have to run after him in a train station?
And fall down some stairs, I guess. In the dub, Koji seems more hesitant to believe him. It's kind of like, are you sure? Well, how do I know you're not lying? And in the original, he's like, oh yeah, okay, fair enough. That seems reasonable.
Wouldn't Koichi have gone to see his dad? Because the dad didn't really know that he had said... Koichi couldn't have known that the dad had told Koji the mom was dead because he didn't know Koji existed.
Yes.
He just knew that his dad didn't see his mom anymore.
Yeah.
And that she was sad about it. Wouldn't you go see your dad?
I think he might have hated his father.
No, you can not like somebody, but you can see them. Like, he didn't like him, ostensibly, with literally having never had a conversation with him and never seeing him really in person for, like, 10 years.
Yep.
But he's, like, down the road, because obviously they walk past your house.
Obviously lived close enough that he was able to look at him.
Does that... And also, that was just outside the window, wasn't it?
I have the impression that Koichi's quite a shy boy.
But, can I just say, was that not just, like, right by their window?
No, he was outside.
Well, it was outside.
He was around a corner.
It was when Koichi was inside his house with his mom. He looked outside, didn't he? And then they were there.
No.
Or were they? It was a.
No, I think that was a different. I
Cut to
think
a
that might
different
have been a
scene.
different scene.
I'm trying to remember. It's hard. It's all sepia.
Or maybe he was just remembering it. But what I'm saying is that I think Koichi's quite a shy boy, and he kind of likes to not do that sort of thing. Like, he doesn't want to be in someone else's business. So I think he might have
What
been a bit
gives
too
you
shy
that
to
impression?
that. His character.
What is that?
That
He's been Duskmon.
Well, I guess you don't know because you haven't seen much of the show. Yeah.
I would have no way of guessing that.
Koichi's quite shy, and I
Okay.
mean, both Koji and both of the twins, they're quite shy.
Yeah, so Koji's really shy with all that threatening to punch Takuya all the time.
Yeah, well, that's when he opened up, to be fair.
Boo! Stop opening up.
So Koji remembers Ophanimon telling him about the mysteries that surround him. Then Cherubimon's power takes over, and he attacks him and devolves Koji. Koichi appears inside, and in the dub, there's this really weird moment when this Koichi talks instead of just showing quite blank expression, and he says that he got what he needed, his mum. Then his slide evolves, and Koji wants to know more. In the dub, he tells him to turn into his human form so he can talk more about him and his mum. Then Velgamon does a zone deleter attack again, but Takuya shows up and he pushes him out of the zone. Nemon falls and Patamon saves him. It's really cute. Patamon attacks Velgamon because he's so brave.
Isn't it right before this that Koji's like, no, I want to know about my brother or whatever, and Velgamon's like, no, it's too late for that.
Yeah, that did happen.
The stupidest line ever. Oh, my whole motivation is that my brother made my mother sad and hates me and didn't want to know me. Oh, I want to know you. I'm too angry now.
Why is he Australian?
I'm getting exactly what I want.
You're giving him Australian accent for some reason.
My angry voice is Australian.
Koji says that he can't fight him because he's his brother, and Takuya says that he's just trying to confuse him and it can't be true. And then Takuya remembers his own brother and how they were fighting over video games and how that he got mad and the blame always went to Takuya and not to his brother. Then one time he ran out into the rain and his brother came with an umbrella and they went to play video games.
The villain, Marty's girl.
So the interesting thing that I noticed is that, and we saw the umbrella in Junpei's episode as well, is that this is a very Japanese culture thing of the umbrella means friendship, or the umbrella means like the relationship because you're sharing an umbrella. And you always have in the shoujo anime, it's like, oh, maybe I can share my umbrella with senpai. And it's like
I don't know any of that.
It's that sort of like, and I could be completely wrong here, but this is the impression I get from anime and manga and Japanese media, is that, that the umbrella is like a sign of friendship or love or intimacy, not necessarily in a romantic or a sexual sense, sometimes in platonic, sometimes in familial. And in this case, it's familial. It has the brother, he's run out with his own umbrella and one for Takuya, and it's like this sort of sharing and helping, and yeah, it's this. I think it must be a Japanese cultural thing, right? Because this doesn't happen as much in Western culture, I think. In the dub, Takuya is thinking to himself about the rain instead of there just being like atmospheric silence.
Yeah, and so it's this really weird bit where Takuya, he opens with, he's just trying to trick you, there's no way he's your brother. And then he has his flashback and then he goes, I'm so happy for you. He didn't get any new information. He just was convinced one way and now he's convinced the other way.
Yeah.
Furthermore, he goes, oh, you have a brother now, I'm so happy for you.
It's really awkward.
As if him growing up with a brother for his entire life and having, those ups and downs in a relationship and having that bond there is the exact same thing as only finding out today.
Also, in the dub, Takuya has no tact. So, in the original, Takuya says, well, when I go back, I'm going to become a better brother. In the dub, he says, wow, I'm really, really, really happy for you, Koji. Well, brothers fight all the time, so it's fine. I'm like, whoa, Takuya, dude, this guy tried to kill you.
No, it's not even that. But he turns off to the sun and he goes, actually, you know what? My brother's really great. I'm going to look forward to seeing him. Like, he's just really happy.
Yeah.
And he's like, he totally turns away from Koji's problem and just has this external, you know what? My life's great. Yours is really bad right now. I'm doing great.
I'm a protagonist. I have goggles on my hat.
So weird. And I don't understand this, I will not fight him, he's my brother. This just feels like the laziest writing in the world to create a nothing tension.
I think it's fair enough. Like, you wouldn't want to hurt someone like, oh, no, I know he's related to me, or, no, I know there's actually a human in there, I don't want to fight and kill him.
Okay, well, there are two problems with that. First of all, he just zone deleted you, so you have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, but he's a good guy, he doesn't want to kill someone.
So first of all, it's partly defending yourself. But most of all, no one ever dies in this show. And I'm not saying that, like, nothing has died, Digimon have died, whatever. But Koji has been beaten into not near death, but he's been beaten. And you know what happens when you get beaten? You're like, oh, I guess it hurts a bit, and then your spirit comes out. They know that's what happens when you win.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
You can't hit a Digimon hard enough for the human inside to die. Can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, they have seen the other spirits that they've killed and their eggs float up, but I guess they're not really thinking about what happens if we fight this evil spirit.
Their eggs have only flown up when you scan their spirits out of them.
Yes.
And when you do that to a human, they stay there because they're humans. So we know with 100% absolute certainty, no harm, lasting harm, will come to Koichi if you fight him now. Which means that Koji either doesn't understand the digital world he's been in for months, or he's an idiot. And I'm willing to think he's an idiot.
Well, no, I don't think it's that bad. I think they're just worried that it would actually kill him. And that's fine. He's also, you need to, like, try and show a bit of empathy towards these fictional characters in the way that you need to understand that this is a lot for Koji to take on. He has a brother, his mother's alive, he's going through a lot. So can we just assume that he's probably not thinking super well? You don't think about like the emotions that the characters are going through.
My
and
problem.
that
I'll describe it to you.
when characters are acting, irrationally, you've still got to think about, okay, if these were real people, how would I handle it if I found out that my mother, who I was always told was dead, is actually alive, and I also have a twin brother, my dad's horrible.
Can I tell you my perspective?
You're going through a lot of things at the moment, so can we just give him a bit of slack and say, oh, maybe he's not going to be thinking entirely realistically or reasonably at all, and, oh, I don't want to fight him because I don't want to hurt him, and so we need to understand that they are, like, yes, they're fictional, but he's going through a lot. Remember, he's only a little kid.
Sure, but the thing from my perspective here is it's really hard for me to make that leap. I mean, but first of all, from a suspension of disbelief issue, as I said before, and also, you know that thing that happens with dogs who sometimes misbehave in like movies and stuff where they roll up a newspaper and they sort of whap them on the nose? I feel like the writers have done that to me with the script. And I'm like, I can't pay attention to this character right now when they're doing that to me.
Well, I personally find the best use for a Digimon script is to hit a dog that's done bad in the face.
Are you sure it's not for like warmth on a cold night? You just set it on fire?
Yeah, it's got many purposes.
Good kindling those.
No, maybe. But yeah, so the best part of the episode is Patamon wanting to fight. Oh, wait,
big fighto.
I think I'm skipping a little bit though. So yeah, after Takuya is pretty tactless, Takuya says they have to free him. And Takuya says he's dumb for not wanting to save his brother. In the dub, he says that Koji is just feeling sorry for himself, but he has a fight that he has to win. So, again, he's still sort of tactless and not as understanding. Whereas in the original, he's just like, look, we have to free him. And, I know you're feeling bad, but we have to save your brother. And the dub is kind of like, well, you're just feeling sorry for yourself and I have a fight to win. So I don't know why he's necessarily that tactless in the dub. So then Takuya Double Spirit evolves, and as always in the dub, he says, execute now! And, it's weird because it's the same amount of lines to fill as in the original version. It's with both Takuya and Koji, they say Double Spirit, or Double Spirito. And they say, and Koji says execute, but Takuya says execute now. And I just find it really weird that Koji doesn't say execute now, but Takuya does. So, yeah, Patamon wants to fight, and Velgmon just kind of sits there while Patamon just goes to boom bubble a few times, and it's kind of adorable. You're just like, excuse me, little tiny bean, am I in your way? Velgmon picks up Eldamon, and Koji remembers what Takuya says, and then he Double Spirit evolves.
Sorry,
yep.
You failed to mention that he picks him up like an eagle carrying a baby. Like, it's a big man just goes, Eldamon, how does he get picked up? He just trips?
Yeah.
He just falls over, and the thing just flies over, and like, I gotcha, pick you up.
And then, so they beat him very quickly, actually, and they scan the spirits of darkness, and then Koji de-evolves, and Koichi is human. And then the other kids on Trailmon are coming, and then Takuya recognises Koichi as the boy from Shibuya when he went back. What do you think of this episode as someone who's new to Digimon?
Well, as you can tell from our discussion, I didn't like it. I didn't really like it at all. Because as much as you read into this is all the reason this makes sense and this makes sense and this here, I mean, what's important, whether or not I agree with you, what is important is that my first impression of the episode was that, oh, it's all the stupidest, worst soap opera stuff in the world.
Oh no, it's very soap opera-y. I'm not going to, deny that. It's very sort of soap opera drama-y, but I find that that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just a thing.
Look, amnesia, long-lost twin brothers. What? The only thing this is missing?
People lying. That's in the episode.
Ooh, people lying. The only thing this is missing is the old matron of the family killing the butler to keep her secret safe and keep the fortune away from Johnny.
Yeah. And what would you rate this episode?
I gave it a 2.
I gave it a 7.
Yeah, it deserved a 2.
I don't know. I found that this was a nice sort of it was quite a dark episode. It was very deep, and the way that's just a horrible thing to tell your son. Oh, by the way, your mum died, even if she didn't. I find that as quite a serious topic, and it's a darker side of Frontier, and I found that the episode was compelling. We finally find out who Koichi is exactly, and what he actually has gone through, and the fact that he's gone through some dark stuff, and that's why he's been so easy to be possessed by the spirit of darkness, which is pretty much taking control of him. So no, I didn't think it's a 2. I mean, at most, it could be a 6 at the very least, but it's not a bad episode. I liked this episode. I found that it was compelling. I wasn't bored. And while there are a few things where you might have to stretch your imagination for, some other things are just quite smart, and they don't sort of treat you like an idiot and sort of they sort of give you hints to believe something, but they don't, jam it down your throat. It's like, this is what you should feel, this is what you should think is going on right now. And I found that interesting.
I guess the reason I find that hard to swallow, and the reason it just feels really, really out of place, because it's not like, if this happened in Tamers, I'd be like, oh, okay, this is really interesting. All this stuff's happening. It kind of did happen with Juri's dad, and with it but at the opposite, where instead of him being the worst ever, he was actually great.
He was just an awkward father.
But like, if you had to think of the other kids' problems in the context of this, think of Koji. Oh, twins separated at birth. The dad is basically Satan. What's Junpei's problem? People don't like me at school.
Well,
what was Zoe's problem?
The same.
A girl said she would have dinner with me, and then she didn't.
Tomoki, Junpei, and Azumi essentially have the same sort of backstory of they don't have friends, or they're bad at making friends for one reason or another.
It's just so not on the same scale, and at that point, it just comes out of so nowhere.
Yeah.
You ask yourself, why is it episode 32? We're quite a bit over halfway now, I guess. And you have to ask, is the main plot just starting? 32 episodes.
No, it does.
That's more than a full season of another show.
It does get the feeling that this is something that could have been fine to happen, 15 episodes ago, and been the plot, instead of, we have an egg now, let's also keep on losing and getting spirits for 10 episodes.
Maybe it would have felt less strange and less, completely shunted into the show if it was formed more of a basis of the show.
And what did you think about this episode compared to your predictions in Obnoxious Synopsis?
I said they would talk about what's going on with them, and they sure did. And I said they don't explain the basics of how someone wouldn't know for 12 years. And I still don't think they did. I don't... They said the dad didn't say anything, but, you can't... I don't think that Koji would have known his dad was normal for the whole time and just been like, yeah, he's totally fine. Of course, he's my dad. And everything's normal. If he's so evil about this one thing, there needs to be a discussion of how he made this decision, which is weird because then it turns him into a real character, which at this point, he's a silhouette. He's not a real character. He's had, one line of dialogue, which is, why are you looking at a picture of your mom?
Yes.
And he's central to this story. He's the core pillar of it, and he doesn't even really exist. And I think that's why I'm really like, oh, well, it's all just excuses to do the story they want, but who am I to say? I
also found that, I liked it for that reason, that it had the father, about the thing with the photograph, and I mentioned that earlier, is that it's sort of foreshadowing, and I find that fine. What was the major difference between the Japanese and English version?
I'm trying...
Because I feel like I did have something.
One of my big ones, really off the top of my head, is that what Velgamon is meant to be, is he's meant to be pretty much mindless, or not mindless, but he's meant to be pretty much so overcome with aggression that all he can do is growl and say really basic stuff.
Yep.
So he's just like, the light, or kill, or that's what he does, right? Would you agree?
Yep.
Okay, so when he comes in to attack it in the English, he goes, now we're talking! It's a bit off. It's not really correct.
Yeah. Well, I found that Takuya being more tactless was weird, considering we've seen Takuya to sort of have some, sort of developed tact, but in this bit it was like, you know what, I know you're going through some things, but man, brothers are great, and you'll love having a brother. Did I mention that brothers fight? Brothers fight all the time, so this is fine, this is normal, this is completely normal. Your brother's trying to kill you? That's normal.
It's a bit weird. Also, the Digivice communicators didn't work because of the distance. I think only in this one.
Oh yeah, that was only because of the script. It makes no sense.
In English, I mean.
Yes, but it also makes no sense because the Sephirothmon, then they're able to communicate through Sephirothmon with all the barriers.
Oh, it's real stupid.
What do you think will happen to Koichi now that he has no spirits and he's in his human form?
I think he'll hang out with the kids and they'll find him. They have all these spare spirits, honestly. I'd like them to give them to him.
Give him Ranamons.
He's Ranamon. What are you going to do?
I still want, Izumi to, use Ranamons or Calmaramons.
It'd be clever, but they'll never do it.
I always just thought that it'd be best if Takuya said, hey, Izumi, you don't have a spirit at the moment. Here, have the Gigasmon one that I have. And we just have Izumi running around as Gigasmon for a few episodes.
That would be awesome.
That'd be great. I feel like Frontier has so many missed opportunities. My screenshot of the week was this scene when the Trailmon has just exploded and become the new Trailmon when he's been reborn. And there's sort of like this slow pan across Tomoki, Junpei, and Izumi's expression. And they basically look like they have these beaks, these diamond-shaped mouths. And for some reason, I just found it really funny. Junpei looks like a ditto in one of the screenshots. It's really funny.
Mine is Beowulfmon. When there's this big zoom in on his face, he's got the speed lines behind him. He goes, "You're telling me that I have a long lost twin brother?"
Yeah, it is very soap opera-y.
I couldn't handle it.
And there were no Digimon introduced in this episode.
Good.
Like, at all. We just had plot. We had the dad, if he counts as a Digimon. We had, the true evil revealed, which was the father. For Postmon Pat, first of all, we'll do our weekly poll, which was, who looks better, Bokumon or Patamon with the pink band? And Jay will read I believe we only had one comment this week, and Jay will read that while I quickly get out the results.
This from Hirolato, who votes for the bean. And they say they're not a huge fan of Bokumon's design, which I think is tragic. And Patamon looks great, that's fine, but Patamon looks good without the band. You don't even know what Bokumon would look like without it.
Naked. He would look naked without it.
I think if you judge it based on percentage increase on character design, I think Patamon is, it's getting like a solid 20% boost. It's real cute, but it's not. Patamon's still Patamon. It would be cute regardless. Bokumon's like, he's gone from probably nothing to like, oh, that's a good design. So
yeah. It's effectively like a character trait for Bokumon, but it's not so much for Patamon.
So the question, what's the exact wording of the question?
The exact wording was, who wears the belt better?
Okay, so the question is not who looks best with the belt, because obviously Patamon would win because it just looks best overall.
Because he's adorable.
But read it again one more time.
Who wears it better? It's not a complex
who wears
sentence.
It better? Who is improved the most with this belt? Who uses the belt the best? It's gotta be Bokumon. It's gotta be Beaky.
See, I said Patamon because while Bokumon invented the look, I think Patamon perfected it because he is adorable, and the pink cute little belt around him just makes him even cuter.
But he'd be great with, like, Mimi's hat. It doesn't matter.
Adorable. Can we please have Patamon with Mimi's hat? Can we have everyone wearing Mimi's hat?
But he doesn't wear the hat.
Can we have Bokumon wearing Mimi's hat?
No. See, Patamon doesn't wear the hat. The hat's upside down and he's balled up in it. He's sleeping.
No, he puts it in his butt.
He's like, am I doing it right?
Yeah. Anyway, so we got 14 votes. And Patamon won with 8 votes to Bokumon's 6 votes. So, well done, listeners, for agreeing with me.
You're all wrong.
On With the Will, Jay Ukiyo says, regarding Koichi and Koji's name being 1 and 2, Ko is written with the kanji for light in their names.
Have I heard of this before?
Well, I actually learnt it because of Jay Ukiyo.
It.
No, but I mentioned it because it was relevant to what we were talking about. So I didn't realise that. Because kanji's hard, and I thought it might have been one of the other many cores, but no, it's for light, and I never knew that. So I learned some Japanese, so thank you. And Jay Ukiyo says that Bergamon Dark evolving to Velgamon is the coolest idea. Then they say, Frontier, Cross Wars, Hunters, and Atmon currently have the same problem. Bones of a good story, but it gets lost trying to get the details straight. Which, like, I mean, I think it might be too soon to judge about how Atmon's going because it's not finished yet. And maybe, I think Cross Wars and Hunters could have been with more, but I feel like they're still better than Frontier in general. Then Jay says that plot threads wrapped up too quickly or never wrapped up at all, and the character growth is confused at best, lazy and cliched at worst, and the pacing is bad, and that these seasons need to allow the story time to breathe. And I mean, like, we'll get to that when we start covering Cross Wars, but again, I feel like Cross Wars does all of this better than Frontier. It might not do it as well as maybe Tamers or perhaps Savers, but it's still an enjoyable show, and Cross Wars actually has my Digimon OTP in it.
I think the character growth in Atmon's been really good, and you can't really compare that with any of the other ones.
Yeah, and also, like, Atmon does have some good stuff so far, and already has better episodes than Frontier. And hopefully it continues to be that fantastic, but we had a bad ranking episode last week, so... Chakmon says that they like the concepts in episode 29, Takuya saying, you copied our data but couldn't keep up with our growth, and that the fighting scenes were drawn out as Jay mentioned, but the chase scenes were scary, and yeah, I would agree that those chase scenes are actually, they're actually quite scary with Sephirothmon. Chakmon then says, how did Bokumon and Nemon toss Patamon back and forth in the pitch black darkness? That is a good question.
Why would they do it in the first place at all? But also...
It's cute.
I don't know, it just seemed like the way to go.
Chakmon liked the delivery of Koichi's backstory, and Velgmon's creepy. Zone Deleter is amazingly creepy. And I would agree, I did like the sort of a Fanimon, beam, and this sort of dramatic point. That was probably one of the most enjoyable moments in the series so far. Chakmon then admits that the writing is terrible, and that they're slowly coming to the terms with this over the last 30 episodes, and that Chakmon said that they knew that Frontier was lacking, but the writing is so bad, and we're not even up to his least favourite arc of the season.
Wait, is this not their favourite series?
Yes.
I think it might not be at the end.
I hope we're not ruining Frontier for you, Chakmon, because it's fine to like Frontier.
At this rate, I kind of hope I'm ruining it for you.
I like Frontier. I mean, it has lots of problems, but I like Frontier. Then Chakmon says that things happen just because of the plot.
No, I don't. I want to just. I don't mean to say that just from a mean perspective. I would like to ruin things for people, but I really went into this because Chakmon's like, well, "This is my favorite thing," and I'm like, "Well, I don't like the first 2 episodes, but I respect the fact that it's your favorite thing. I'm sure that I will grow to like it." And as it has never improved, and in fact has often gotten worse, I'm starting to think maybe it just shouldn't be your favorite.
Well, people are allowed to like things, Jay.
I'm not saying you're not allowed to, but I'm saying if you do realise it's not your favourite as a result of this, I think I would be really happy.
Chakmon then says that Frontier has potential, but doesn't build its story well, so the writing seems forced. And yeah, I would agree, which is it's sad. Also on With the World, McGahn, who is Dak and Jackson on Reddit, says, in reply to Jay Ukyo, saying that Atmon has more narrative thrust, internally consistent mechanics, and more enjoyable characters than Cross Wars or Frontier. And there's no way to gauge how good or bad the rest of Atmon will be, which I agree with, and I'm fingers crossing that Atmon will be really, really, really good, and will be... I mean, some of the episodes are already better than Tamers, so I think it's fine. Wildwing64 sent us a Photoshop of the Wario of Dankness Vegemon.
Oh, I was sick!
Because of something Jay said that Jay actually had to sit down and think about when he actually said it, but now he remembers.
I had mispronounced the Warrior of Darkness Velgamon into the Wario of Dankness Vegemon. I'd totally forgotten I said that.
Shadow Lilith 92 says that Adventure and Frontier are the most similar seasons of all of Digimon. They both have the same virtues and the same flaws, but Adventure for some reason evokes more nostalgia than Frontier.
Because kids and their Digimon partner thing is really interesting and fun to watch.
In the Digimon fandom, and this is what Shadow Lilith 92 continues to say, it seems that if something's more popular or beloved for some reason, it is written off as good.
Often because they're more popular and loved because they are better.
See, I think that Adventure is better than Frontier by quite a bit, because Adventure does try to do stuff with all the characters. And I mean, it does have problems. Adventure's not the best season. A lot of the problems that Adventure has, is easily overlooked by nostalgia goggles, but it is definitely better than Frontier. I mean, there weren't that many problems. There were sort of things where we said, oh, this is dumb, but we sort of, at some point, had to, really dig in to find the problems. In Frontier, it's just sort of some of the problems are just there. I'm like, oh, that's a problem.
Look, Adventure is bad in a lot of places, let's be real. There's lots of episodes of us talking about that sort of stuff, especially me. But I think the easiest way to understand because I think the contention of Shadow Lilith's thing here is that Adventure and Frontier are basically the same thing, but people like Adventure more, so they say it's better. I don't think that's really how it works. I think the best way to understand how these are different is look at your Goggle Kid. Where was Tai at this stage, and where is Takuya now? Takuya is the same... Does Takuya...
No, there is one part where we've seen growth of Takuya, and it's when... a few episodes ago, and they're saying, okay, what should we do about Sephirothmon? And Takuya, as Eldamon says, we should run away, we're going to die. It's different from sort of no, we shouldn't run away, we should fight, we almost had him, I was just one hit away from killing him. That's growth. It's not, I mean, it's bare bones growth. It's a little bit of growth in a whole season, but that is growth. We can't deny that is character development.
But now there's also he's like, oh, it's really cool you've got a brother. No, I miss my brother anyway.
Yeah.
But your brother, I mean, he's probably fine.
Yeah.
You had to go kill him though.
Yeah, but
and then look at Tai, who he'd become the leader of the group. Everyone had begun to respect him.
Yeah.
He was a different person by this point.
Yeah, and at this point, I think is when everyone says, okay, you're the leader, Tai, what should we do? And Tai thinks and he's like,
Delegate.
Izzy should do it. Izzy's smart. Izzy will work this out. I'll screw this up. Izzy can do it. So I feel like, I mean, again, I grew up with adventure, but having Jay speak, as someone who doesn't have the nostalgia blindness, and I agree, some people do say, Adventure and Zero Two are the best seasons, but they're blinded by nostalgia.
It's not the best season.
Yeah, but people do say that, and I thought that Zero Two was the best season before rewatching it critically and talking about it with you. I just always thought that was a really good season.
I don't think anyone can accuse me of having nostalgia goggles. I don't like this show.
Yes, so that's really useful because you can see what a show, like how good a show actually is. And, Tamers is, guess what? People like Tamers because it's good.
Tamers is objectively the best season of all of these original seasons, except it's also not amazing all the way through.
Well, I always say that Tamers is over-exaggerated. It's not as good as everyone says. It's still a good season, but I feel like the fandom says, oh, this is the best bit of writing ever. I'm like, no. There's better writing. It does have problems, but Tamers isn't bad. It's got problems, but it's good. Frontier's, questionable. I mean, I still enjoy Frontier. I like Frontier.
I find it painful every episode.
I was always worried about the whole, Izumi not doing much like that. That's part I actively hate about the season, but other things
It's been less
I like.
pronounced than you said it was, actually. When we opened the show, you were like, the thing about Frontier is that Izumi literally never gets a single thing in. She's always a damsel. And I'm like, that you can point to at least 3 occasions, I think, where you go, she was both either the most useful person in the situation or one.
Jay, we're 32 episodes in. What I'm mad about hasn't happened yet.
Okay, fair enough. But I just remember, it is, thus far, more toned down than what you described to me. Now, it's not good. She's definitely not treated well. This is very much a, wrestling circa 2013, where it's circa sort of, I guess, Paige just showing up, or just before that with AJ Lee and stuff. Sorry, I'm making those references, but basically, yeah, it's not great. They're still having 2-minute matches, but they're not wrestling in gravy anymore. So you can't compare them. That's how I feel. It's bad, but it could be worse.
Shadow Lilith goes on to say that Atmon doesn't try to go beyond some very interesting concepts, which I would agree with. I think that sometimes it could go beyond that sort of thing. I mean, sometimes it does. We always mention this in our Happy episodes. Episode 4 is how all episodes of Atmon should be.
Yeah, although I'm trying to pass the phrase, they don't try to go beyond very interesting concepts. Well, one might argue that the reason you wouldn't do that is because they're very interesting, and you don't have to. I think I'd need some context for where that comes from.
And then Shadow Lilith 92 says, maybe because they think about what kids would watch rather than what adults would watch, and they're not thinking about adults at all.
That seems where it's aimed.
I don't have a problem with them not writing for adults because, we can always say, oh, this is a great show, and I'm really enjoying this as an adult. But you can't expect them to pander to adults watching it when it's not in any way or shape or form aimed at adults. Sure, other season of Digimon, Savers is aimed at the original audience of Digimon who watched Adventure, who were now at that point teenagers, and it's aimed at 16-year-olds. Atmon is aimed at kids, so we can't expect it to go super, super, super deep in, for adults or for the writers to consider adults that much, because it's not. It's like when people say that My Little Pony is an adult show. I'm like, no, it's not. Adults can like My Little Pony. That is fine. You can like a kid's show, and it is fine. But you cannot go out of your way to say that My Little Pony is, in any way, an adult's TV show.
Next to that, I think that we are spoiled nowadays with a glut of what appears to be children's shows that are very clearly written with adults
Adults in mind,
watching in
yeah.
mind. You've got your Adventure Time, especially later seasons when they start to
Yes.
get very intelligent. You've got your Gravity Falls, which is arguably more written for adults. It's very, obviously a kid's show, but like it's one of the much more complex ones. And
Legend of Korra.
Legend-
Or
no,
Avatar in general.
Avatar in general,
But Korra
Legend of
was older.
Korra was a
Korra
strong
aimed at
one,
all, yeah.
and Steven Universe is the most contemporary example of it. And I think we have come to expect with. If you as an adult are watching a kid's show, what you want is to watch and be like, yes, the writers are treating everything maturely, and no, sometimes Teletubbies is just Teletubbies.
Yeah, but I feel like Japan doesn't really have those sort of shows that are like, oh, let's write it for kids and also with adults in mind.
Well, I mean, there's panty shots in your manga over there for kids.
Oh, well, yeah, so, yeah, that happens a lot in V-Jump and Psycho Jump because it just sort of happens in Japan. So, the thing is, and I remember when I was a kid, and there was a show called Rocko's Modern Life.
Ooh.
And that was a kid's show because, he's a little kangaroo and it's so cute.
He's a wallaby.
Is Wallaby? Alright, well, same thing.
Stare into my nipples of the future!
Yeah, so this was a show that was on for kids and that kids were watching, but it had a lot of jokes that kids would never get in the world, ever.
Like when they milk heifer.
Yes. So but clearly there were jokes for children, which we won't go in, like for adults, which we won't go into because this is a clean podcast. But there are some very dirty jokes for grown-ups. Like, they go to a chicken place. I'm not going to say the chicken place because it's not for clean podcast. But they go to a chicken place, which is a very dirty, like, naughty adult haha humor joke name.
Sure.
And so they do that in Western things. But in anime, I don't think it's done too much where they say, okay, our demographic can be kids, but we're also going to write things for the grown-ups who are also watching. In Japan, and this is only from what I have experienced in anime before, is that they just sort of go for one demographic. Like, they're like, okay, our demographic is boys aged 8 to 13. Go.
There's a word for this, and I know it gets used in the marketing of toys. Actually, no, it happens in shows as well. So no, it actually is for this. It's why Young Justice got cancelled. Actually, I wish I could remember what the word was. I'm going to use the word polarization. It's not what it is, but basically the idea is if you market wholly to one demographic and you get a high percentage of that demographic, and then there's another thing that markets to a totally different demographic and gets all of them, then you're getting more market saturation between them than you would with one show that goes to both. Which is why you get things that are heavily pushed to girls or heavily pushed to boys, and they don't want to cross over because that dilutes them, and then they're not hitting sort of the points they're trying to get. And I think that's stupid. I don't think that is good for consumers.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense for advertisers on shows. It makes sense for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make sense from a media content creating perspective. Unfortunately, that's capitalism for you.
Well, it's whatever sells. Asuka on with the Will says, congratulations on episode 100 of the main show. And every Friday night they refresh SoundCloud feed for new episodes because they want to listen to them immediately. That makes me so happy.
I think that's awesome. I really like to hear that, but also that is the thing that gives you like the really anxiety on Saturday morning, and it's like, I have to do it now. I'm always like, no, you can do it on Sunday.
It makes me
it's
happy
okay.
because it makes me feel like good for. I try to have it out on the same, like around the same time, and I do it Saturday morning my time because I'm just like that is the good time because that releases for afternoon to evening. If I do it later in the day, for me, it's coming out where a lot of our listeners who I looked at the stats. Apparently, a lot of our listeners come from America.
Yeah.
So when I would be releasing that episode, it might be no one's awake to get it, and I want someone to listen to it immediately, and that makes me happy. So I'm glad that there are people who listen to it immediately, and it makes me so happy.
Well, the way I think about podcast releases is I think the best policy was always the best Fairencast policy, which was they release on Tuesdays. That's the official release date of the podcast, is every Tuesday. But for the first 6 months or so of the podcast, they always released the show on a Monday. Mm-hmm. And what it was they were releasing it early every time. It would go and go and go until finally they didn't. And they would be like, well, it's not late. We didn't release it late because it's actually the next day. And I'm always telling you, hey, you know what? You don't have to stress about it. You don't have to work so hard on it. And you're like, no, I really do. I need to work hard. And I'm like, okay.
I do, because I always want to put my best into everything, even if it makes me...
How dare you?
How dare I? But no, that makes me really happy. So Elsica says that they like listening at school or playing video games or doing homework. And if you're doing homework right now, good luck on your homework. Or if you're at school, good luck. Ganbatte! Ganbatte kudasai! And they say that it's always funny to listen in class because they'll start laughing their butt off and everyone looks at them. And I know that feeling. I've listened to podcasts. This is rather narcissistic of me, but I was listening to one of our podcasts, the Adventure Vegans to Glow, at work, and I had to stop it because I was just I was hurting myself trying not to laugh because it was just like, guilty. That's not what that says. What does that say? It was just so funny. We were just trying to work out what I was writing.
Oh man, I remember you used to do... I don't think I ever listened to podcasts in class when I was at school, but I remember I used to read books. Just like, I used to
You naughty
read,
student.
just novels that I wanted to read. And what would happen would be the teacher would try to single me out and be like, here's a question about what we were just talking about. I'm like, yeah, here's the answer. And I'd go back to my book.
Yeah, I do that as well.
They were always like,
it's you are the persona protagonist. You're like, hey you're not listening. What is the answer? Yeah. Answers the question. I guess you were listening.
It would always come up parent-teacher nights, and it would always go like this. He's always reading in class. Oh, is he distracted? No, he always seems to know the answers to my questions.
That must have so much upset your teachers.
I think they all got used to it eventually, as the other teachers talked about it, and that's just what he does.
Osaka then says that they hope the podcast continues for a long time, and it will, hopefully.
Oh, until she kills me.
LostinTranslationmon and Lost in Evangelion.
I think the only way the show is going to end is that May is going to,
explode.
She's either she will explode from stress, or that stress will come in another way and I'll just die.
No. Or we break up.
The first casualty of this show will be me, I'm sure.
No. Nah, you're safe. On Tumblr, we have an Anonymon who said that they knew that Jay would like V-Tamers because it's easy to read, great ideas, and there's a more competent Taichi. Did I read this last week?
Yes.
It sounds very familiar. All right, I read this last week. I'm sorry. I'm still very glad that you like V-Tamer and I like V-Tamer. But I did read
V-Tamer or V-Tamers?
V-Tamer because there's one of them.
Okay, I thought so.
Did you like V-Tamer?
I mean, as Digimon content goes, it was good. I don't know if I would choose to read it on my own.
We did read this Anon last time, didn't we?
Yeah, it looks really familiar.
Yeah, and it said about you should listen to the new Frontier ending song, but just audio, no spoil. Yeah. So we also have another one on Tumblr from IRL Yuya, who says that they wish that we didn't already have evidence against the idea that the other evil spirits weren't human, because
they were.
They miss Ranamon, and I also miss Ranamon because she's my favorite. I miss Pedaldramon and I miss Ranamon. I miss ding ding, here's some advice. That was cool. Yeah. And then IRL Yuya says, how does one get an acquaintance to give Atmon a chance when they hate it because they're apps? And then says the acquaintance thinks that Frontier is great and they don't understand why people hate Frontier. And you answered this on our blog, but you may as well give an answer now.
The summary of my response is if someone does not like the thing you like, first of all, sometimes you just can't convince people to like things. They've got something stuck in their head. And the only reason I ever watched Atmon, because I was stuck in the same place, they're apps, that's really dumb, was because I had to for the show. I had no choice. So that was where I came from. But I think the worst thing you can do is be antagonistic and say, no, the thing you like is bad, and the thing I'm trying to get you to watch is better. What you should do is you should try to assess what it is they like about Frontier, and if literally all they say is, I like that they turned into Digimon, well then there's nothing saving them. But you assess what they like in a show, and you say, Atmon has that, it's very clever, it's really good, and you big up the show you're trying to put forward. It's unique in these ways, it's very clever in these ways. I like to, if I'm trying to get someone to watch something or whatever, especially something like this, I would summarize one episode that I thought was really cool and clever. But that's my style of doing things, and often that's because I just like telling stories. Yeah, it's about finding what the other person's perspective is, and then playing towards that. As a side note, that's how to win arguments generally. Yeah,
I'm really bad at giving people advice on how to get someone to watch something because I just my way of getting someone to watch something that I wanted them to watch was start a podcast with them.
That is also an option.
Yeah, and it worked out for me. I'm not sure if it worked out for other people.
It didn't work out for me. I've suffered.
So we have another Anonymon, I can't speak today, who says, instead of eating the world, maybe Trubimon is just hanging out with a Fanimon all the time. No, that's a possibility. They're having sweet chills.
Do we actually know what Cherubimon's plan is?
To be a big evil bunny.
Because I know that Beowulfmon says he's going to destroy the world, and then also Dustmon seems surprised by that. But, like, how does he know that? There's no evidence that what Cherubimon is trying to do is destroy the world. Because he could be trying to control it. He could be trying to become, like, the ultimate life form. You don't know. No one's ever said. Why wouldn't someone have said something?
That is a good point. I can't even remember what he's doing and what his aim is. He's just being a bunny, I guess.
I think he might just be generically evil. I would not be shocked if we got to the end and then he was beaten and it was never discovered what his real plan was.
Well, they clearly put all their evil points into Koji's dad.
Yeah, obviously.
Obviously. We have another Tumblr from Living Shadow who says that they're here to confirm that at least one other person does in fact get the wrestling references that we sneak into the podcast.
We have like 3. It's awesome.
And it's fantastic.
It's not sneak. I just spent a bit talking about 2013 women's divisions.
And they say that it's weird to see 2 completely unrelated interests of theirs pop up at the same time. And
I'm a complex person and I like multiple things.
They enjoy the occasional reference, and I'm glad that some people get it. And we had in the live stream the other day, people were like, yeah, I got back into wrestling because of you guys. I'm like, yeah, you did.
But then we got 2 people back into wrestling.
I was like, yeah, that's accomplishment. Well, at least wrestling is better
It's
now.
really good right now.
Yeah.
2016 was one of the best years of wrestling, like, for a long time.
I would like to thank Bailey for that. Thank you, Bailey.
Bailey was helpful, but honestly, Bailey was much more effective in 2015 than she was in 2016.
Okay, good point. We have another Anonymon who says, Takuya saying execute now is to fill the mouth flaps for double spirit.
But you could just say fusion or double spirit.
And also, that makes no sense because Koji doesn't say execute now, and he has the same mouth flaps. So maybe it's because they just have him at a different angle, I'm not sure, but it's just really weird that he says execute now, but Koji doesn't. Then our last Anonymon was saying that they think that we exaggerate how bad these episodes are.
Well, May doesn't. May's very generous with her scores, I think.
I know, but I'm not saying they're good.
You're giving 7s. That means it's good.
Yeah, because I like that episode. I feel like they do have a lot of problems, but they only have problems if you look for them and dig really deep and focus on them and think about them. But yeah, if you think about it, there are pretty big problems.
I can't stand the idea that a problem's only a problem if you think. I've been over this with you before. Anything can be a perfect masterpiece if you don't think about it.
That's fair.
Staring at a brick wall can be the most entertaining thing in the world if your mind goes completely blank and you don't think. Because there's no quality of the thing you are witnessing at all anymore that's influencing your decision making. It's all about how you feel at that point. It doesn't matter. You could have... I think that the 2001 Space Odyssey is an amazing movie, but I do think that like the 10-minute scene of all the flashing colours, since that's probably time-locked and not impressive at all anymore, I think it's boring now. But, you know, you could look at that, and if you didn't think about it, and you're like, ooh, pretty colours, you could say that's entertaining. And then you'd think it's good. I just don't think that part's that good anymore. People have different tastes. That's fine. I don't like Frontier. And I don't think I'm exaggerating on how bad they are, because there are 2 things that are at play here that make them bad. And I think both of those are hard to exaggerate, which is A, how bored I was watching them. You can't exaggerate boredness, because boredness is it's a neutral feeling. It is a lack of excitement. You can't exaggerate how not excited you were. Second, how little they make sense. Now, as in this episode, it is possible to read some sense into some things, but I think a lot of the time we've agreed that there are just elements of the story that don't make any sense, and you can't exaggerate that either. The only thing you can exaggerate is how important that is to your enjoyment of the show, I guess. And for me, that consistency is important, and you have to make a decision if that's the case for you.
Yeah, well, that's fair. Or you can just get up the script and hit yourself with the newspaper with it. I will hit myself with the script. No, but it is fine to disagree with us. I encourage, someone to disagree with us, because you're allowed to have your opinion. You're allowed to enjoy Frontier. You're allowed to disagree with us. And sometimes I feel like, enjoyment is completely up to the individual, and I enjoy this, Jay does not. And it's fine if you disagree with us, and that is fine.
Sometimes I wish we were like a morning radio show where we had like all the sound effects and big soundboard, and we could be like, you know what time it is? What is it? It's the script!
Yeah. I would
play all
like
this
a
stuff.
soundboard. Yeah. Poor script. Rest in peace.
Oh, the script sucks.
We have a Rumble Arena suggestion.
What?
We have a Rumble Arena.
It's been a long time.
It's been a long time because no one said like, hey, we have a Rumble Arena, and now we have we did get another one from Chackamon, but I'm not
Chackers.
I'm not for Chackers. If it was Aussie, but we're not going to do that one until a certain episode comes up because I feel like it would flow better with that episode. So we have a suggestion from Noam.
Digimon Rumble Arena!
And Noam says, what farewell did you prefer? Adventure's farewell or Tamer's farewell? And
It's Adventure.
Or what was so I'm going to argue what was sadder for me.
It's Adventure. You can't argue.
Good. Well, I can argue for Tamer's being sadder because you know in Adventure that they get back with their Digimon, and it's not like
Do you?
It's like a happy farewell. It's like they have time to say their goodbyes. They have time to say, oh look, I love you and you're a good partner, and Koshiro does say, oh, I love you to Tentomon. At least he does in the English version.
So let's address that. How do you know they're going to get back together? This is the event of Adventure. There's no other Digimon content after
but
this.
as we are now looking at the series,
We're not comparing that. That's not fair.
Okay, well, even without that, you're given time. You say, okay, you have like a couple of hours to say goodbye to your partner. You have, a couple of hours to spend some time. In Tame, it was just like, oh, they're going now, bye. There's no moment of, oh, we can talk and we can say goodbye. It's just sort of like a very snap of, oh, by the way, they have to leave. And I think it's sadder because they don't get that closure. They don't get that, oh, goodbye. They get a sort of like, oh, we're flying off the distance now. We didn't even say goodbye. We're just de-evolving. It looks like we're dying.
See, I think that abruptness is exactly why I don't think the Tamers one is so sad. And I mean, I can see why that contributes. But I think I've always thought that the facing of an inevitability in the distance is much more interesting and emotional than just a bad thing just suddenly happened to you.
Yeah.
It is much, much scarier for, like, I don't know. I guess it's a really terrible example, but I'm going to go with it because it's the only metaphor I can think of at the time. It is much scarier to have a man with a chainsaw walk towards you for 2 minutes and before he's going to get you, to walking down the street and suddenly getting shot in the face.
Yeah.
Right? They're both equally sad because you'd still died. But one of them you have to think about it for a while. And you have to come to terms with the fact that it's going to happen.
Yes.
And I think that the setup of like, look, we need to leave. We have no choice in the matter and you cannot come with us. So now we have to have a conversation. How do we say goodbye? We don't have a choice. We don't want to say goodbye. Some people, like Mimi or whatever, have to make... Oh, was it Sora? I don't remember.
No, Palmon didn't want to say goodbye, so she just left.
Yeah.
So, well, I'm not saying...
There were decisions to make.
I enjoyed Adventure more, but I found that Tamers was just sadder, and I already explained why. But yeah, I definitely enjoyed Adventure more because it had those sort of moments, and each moment was... It didn't feel like they copied any of the moments between the kids. It was very sort of like each kid has a different, unique relationship. And in Frontier, when we have like Tommy and Zoe and JP's backstory, and they're all more or less the same, with a few different things tweaked.
The only thing I can give you
Yep.
is that from so as a piece of content, I think the Adventures one is sadder.
Yep.
Personally, like, I think the Tamers one is sadder in the sense that I'm not seeing Gilmon ever again. Like, that's...
Yeah.
It's not... I don't think that the farewell for Takuya is that... Like, God damn it.
Takato?
It's the same name. I don't think that the farewell for Takato...
Takato,
Like
correct.
Takoto.
You've forgotten him already. That's heartbreaking.
Takato, I don't think for him it's that sad. Like, it sucks. It just sucks, and they all turn around and the dad's upset and they can blame him. I think that's another thing, is that they have someone directly they can blame. It's his fault. It's not, it's just what we have to do.
I think the lack of closure is just, it's sad. And it is sad that you see all these characters and you see Rika crying.
Oh,
and you see all of them crying.
But also we do see do we see a shimmering digigate?
Yeah,
they can
the
totally
shimmering
go back.
thing at the end. But, like, it's not explained other than that, and it's easily forgettable that happens.
Well, I did forget until right now.
And I don't feel like that's enough to give me closure for the season. And, yeah, so I definitely enjoyed the Adventure one more because it gave closure and, it's a happy ending. It's bittersweet, but it's happy. Like, they're all saying goodbye and they're all running after the train. It's cute.
No, but it was sad. I remember doing the show on both occasions, and I know from my own experiments with myself that at the end of Adventure, I was like, I'm legitimately emotional right now. And at the end of Tamers, I was like, yeah, right. This is what's happening.
I mean, I was a little bit annoyed at Tamers because I'm like, kind of wish we had more of them.
It's not necessarily sad. It's more injustice.
Yeah, just like, it doesn't have closure.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that's
That
why
doesn't make it sad. There are other emotions you can attribute to this.
I'm annoyed, I'm frustrated because I like closure.
Yeah, and those are things that I think that you are piling on. I think if your sadness pile is like at a 50 as a random number, right? And then there's 20 annoyance and 30 anger, right? You're now attributing your sadness to 100, but it's not. It's still 50. It's still only 50 sadness to 100 sadness of adventure.
Yeah.
And I still think adventure is sadder.
Well, see, Adventure also had a whole episode to say goodbye. Like, the start of the episode, they defeated a Pokemon, and then they went to say, okay, we can hang out for, 40 years. And they're like, no, actually the portal's closing now, we have to go. And then they're like, okay, we'll say goodbye. And that was a whole episode. And it did not feel, like, that episode didn't feel like it went on too long.
No, and that sadness slow burn and actually was really nice.
Yeah, no, so I'm trying to go to a different angle because my knee-jerk reaction is Adventure had the better farewell. But, I didn't want to say, well, if we both agree, that's
knee-jerk reaction
boring.
is I have to disagree with Jack.
Yeah, but I'm just like, no, but I can make it so Tamers is my honest answer because Tamers, it didn't have the closure and I felt like if Adventure ended there was no 02, there's no try, that's the end of Adventure.
I smell a second weekly poll.
No, because you can tell us
I
how you
disagree
feel.
with you.
But yeah, I feel like I don't know, there's no closure. It's sad. I don't like not closure. Yeah.
Alright, everybody, join us for the next episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! Vrains. The twins shall meet.
Oh, the new warriors of darkness, Loamon and Kaiser Leomon.
Well, he's dead. And Operation Friend of Ophanimon.
Or Decisive Battle, Rose of the Morning Star, or Fanimon's Rescue Plan. Yeah.
So is it a Fanimon's plan? Or is it the rescue plan to rescue a Fanimon?
I think it's the rescue plan to rescue a Fanimon. It's a Fanimon's...
It's written
It's a
badly.
Fanimon's rescue plan in the way that the subject is a Fanimon and we are rescuing the subject, which is a Fanimon.
That's dumb.
For Weekly Wonders this week, I've been, I kind of say Persona 5 again because I put 60 hours into that game. Or maybe
you
70.
60, because I'm at 20
Okay,
something.
I want you to keep in mind that I fall asleep whenever I'm sitting still.
Oh, so you haven't actually played for 70 hours. You've been sleeping for 50 of them.
Okay, so in the last few times I've played, in the last few sittings, I've played for 5 hours, and I've actually played for one of those hours.
Yeah, that happens
And
a lot.
it's so, it's I have this really weird condition that,
Pay attention to the game.
no, it's impossible. If I'm sitting still for, perfectly still for, even, a short amount of time, I will lose consciousness.
I saw a statistic which said that 1 in 5 people admit to falling asleep at work. I'm like, oh, that explains a lot.
No, I just have a severe problem like that. It doesn't happen if I get up every so often, get myself a glass of water. But no, I just will fall asleep. And I thought it was getting better, but no, apparently I was just moving more. Apparently it's still very much a thing.
You need coffee.
So yeah, I can't say Persona
The pain
5.
will keep you awake.
And I'm allergic to caffeine, so that works brilliantly. So my actual weekly wonder is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which came out, and it's fun. It's Mario Kart. Mario Kart's always fun. They added the ability to have 2 items at once. I love Mario Kart.
Is it not in
No, it was
the
not.
new one?
It was not. It is hype, and I love it.
Also the pink the pink
Oh yeah,
pink
the
drift.
extra drift. And, I was on a Facebook group today and someone says, I don't really bother with drifting. I'm like, well, you're not playing Mario Kart
not
correctly. How do you even win? But no, drifting is
I
ace.
just slow down to take corners.
I remember when I used to reverse on corners because I didn't understand.
What?
So I saw...
How do you reverse?
Okay, so when I first started playing Mario Kart, I saw people drifting, right? Yeah. And I was like, what's that? And I didn't know about a button that did that. So it's like, looks like the reverse button. So I clicked the reverse on the corners, and I was like, that doesn't do anything.
So you stopped, and then you went backwards, and then you kept turning backwards until you went around the corner.
Yes.
Then it said you were going the wrong way, so you turned around again and went forward. And
No.
you'd lost 15 seconds?
No, I press it on the corner. I'm like, well, that does nothing, basically. If not slows me down a bit. Why would anyone do that? So, yeah, that's my little story. What's your weekly wonder? You can't say Warhammer of Kings of War again.
I've got very little.
Just say you can just copy mine. Be unoriginal.
I played Mario Kart with May, and I beat her a lot.
Yeah, because you had smart steering on.
No, it was only the first time. Did I
And-
beat you those other times?
It's bad luck. 1v1 me.
No, but that's...
We'll go again. We'll go again after
Yeah, okay.
after this episode. I'm going to be awake for the next 2 hours just doing the pre-editing stuff anyway.
Pre-editing.
So once again, Jay and I have the same weekly wonders because we're boring.
We don't do anything anymore.
Yeah, we work and we do the podcast and then we, play some video games. But also Persona 5's great. So, if you want a Persona 5, you should
really
do
good.
Persona
It's
5.
really good.
It's really good unless you fall asleep when you're sitting still for a certain amount of time. But at least I'm not an insomniac like all of our other friends. So there's that. So the link dump's linked in the description, and you can find our screenshots of the week and our weekly wonders, which are also linked in the description and in our link dump. You can contact us and stay updated, so you can email us at LostinTranslationmon@gmail.com, or you can comment on this episode or message us on SoundCloud. You can follow us on @TranslationMon on Twitter, and you can find us on LostinTranslationmon on Tumblr, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We have a discussion thread on With the Will and a Reddit thread in the Digimon subreddit. And we'd really appreciate if you would review us on iTunes, Stitcher, or whatever podcast listening app-doodly that you are listening to us on. And we have a website, and you can vote in the weekly poll, which is Koji with bandana or without bandana. So it's sort of like a fashion thing. Like, should he not wear the bandana more? Should he wear the bandana less? I don't know. You can donate to our Patreon, which is linked in the description and on our website. And you can do that from as little as $1 a month. And $1 a month gets you access to our private Slack chat group. And we currently have a roleplay going on. It's going pretty nuts at the moment. It's fun, but it's great. And high levels do get you stuff like exclusive notes, access to our special Patreon-only feed where we sometimes put in updates, information, early and unedited episode recordings, the ability to suggest discussion topics, Skype calls with May and Jay, and more.
And thank you to our current Patreon supporters, Sam Krieger, who has a podcast called The Moncast, which talks about Pokemon and Digimon. Stevie, who has a YouTube channel, which you can find linked to in the description. Wu Qinglong, who you can find at twitch.tv/Wu Qinglong. Metal Mamemon, Joe. Anime Guy, who's Anime Guy Kurosaki and the #1 on YouTube. Chuckmon, Ishwal Bumba, Hiro Lado, who's Hiro Lado on Twitter. Jason Morosky, Ryuchi, who's Frost Magic on Archive of Our Own. Stephen Reeves, who's at WildLink64 on Twitter. Kaitawashi, Mac, Noam, Riku, Red and Garen from Breakfast with Digimon, which is another Digimon podcast you can find on SoundCloud. Chisai, who you can follow at Chisai236 on Tumblr. Corey, Kyle, the Lady Bugman, whose anime blog you can find at bagubaragu.wordpress.com. Small Wolfie, who's on Tapastic as Small Wolfie and has a comic called Eden of Melancholy. Tom, Glitchcode, Azra McCool, and Nicholas.
You can also make a one-off donation on our PayPal account, which can be found in the description. It's paypal.me/Agumon, and make sure to listen to us for the podcast. We'll see you guys next time. Bye!